Okay, it is now 6:32. We are going to call to order the Planning and Zoning meeting. Today is November 15th. Again, it is 6:32, and we are calling this meeting to order. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. The next order on our agenda this evening is a roll call and excused absences. We have one request for an excused absence that was emailed to Ms. Simics ahead of the meeting for Ms. Beavers. Do I have anyone who would like to motion for an excused absence for Ms. Beavers? To excuse her absence?
I motion to excuse her Ms. Beaver's absence. I motion to excuse Ms. Beaver's absence.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All other commissioners are here, Ms. Simics. The next item on our agenda is a moment of silence. If we could have everybody please bow your heads for a moment of silence.
May I say a prayer?
You may say a prayer individually, but we've decided to do a moment of silence as a request of one of the commissioners.
When was the discussion had among the commissioners to?
It wasn't among the commissioners. It was a decision made by myself, the chair of the commission, and I spoke with city staff, and that was approved. That's one of my abilities as the chair.
Okay, so it's a matter of record that Mrs. Zimmerman has unilaterally decided we will no longer have a prayer before our PNC meetings. Thank you very much. We'll observe a moment of silence.
Ms. Simmons, that's normal procedure, correct?
You know, a lot of the committees and commissions have.
No, I meant for the chair to make the decision.
The chairman has the right to make a decision on that, I would assume, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm
Thank
not
you.
sure you're saying it's moving forward every time. I think you said there was a request to have it done today.
No, it was a request to not say a prayer.
From a specific commissioner on this table.
Yes, that's
to
correct.
not do it at all ever going forward.
Yes. And that is, in other committees, that is acceptable, so that's what we've decided to do. I want no one to feel uncomfortable. If you are non-religious, if you are religious, a moment of silence allows you to say a prayer on your own. A moment of silence does not put anybody into a situation that they feel uncomfortable if they are not religious. So by all means, say a prayer to yourselves or say one out loud. It doesn't matter, but I would like to make sure that all of our commissioners feel comfortable, and it was a request from a commissioner. They felt uncomfortable. They asked if we could do a moment of silence. So it is in my right as the chair to make that decision for the committee. Thank you. We'll have a moment of silence now, please. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance. If you could all stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you could please sit down.
I do think in all fairness, though, it might be okay to go back and forth. I mean, we just said under God in our Pledge of Allegiance. We're not getting rid of that. So I do understand where... Oh, hello. Is it on? Can you guys hear me? It's green. It's lit up.
It's on the microphone, it's just not. They don't have a lot of volume. Okay, well, we can't hear when the train's going by.
Well, nobody can hear when the train's going by. Is there a volume button, maybe? Does anybody know?
Yeah, it's green.
It's green. Yep.
Can you hear her now speaking?
Could you hear?
Speaking, but when she turns the opposite direction, you can't hear anything she says.
Okay, then maybe we need to just project that way.
Could you hear her? You can. So I guess we just need to bring it really
It was
close.
just a matter of making a change, which we just did. So
Perfect. Are
can
we
you-
good now? Do we need to test anybody else's mic? Do you guys have yours working okay?
Can y'all hear me? No? It's on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now you can?
Yes.
Okay.
Bring them really close now? I don't remember having to bring them so close, though. I feel like I'm going to chew it.
Okay.
Just had a question on, I do respect that you're the chair. I understand you're in that seat for a reason. I just am not sure that, why can't we go back and forth like we've been doing, where sometimes it's a prayer, sometimes it's a moment of silence, because as we just said, our Pledge of Allegiance, we did just state under God, and we're not scratching that.
It
So
was
I'm just
not-
curious.
Yeah, it was not my request.
If
I
that's
will speak
working.
with the commissioner that made the request and see if that would be an acceptable thing. I am a Christian. I'm trying to weigh everybody's opinions and everybody's rights here. And so please understand, this is not because I don't believe.
That's not what it is. I'm
No,
just
I
saying, in
just want that
fairness,
to be
like to
said
be
because
split.
it
Could we
was-
have it split, where sometimes we do
Correct.
and sometimes we don't?
I am trying to be, yes, I will have that conversation with the commissioner. We will discuss via Peggy, we will discuss via email.
And we can place it on, like many others, we put it on a moment of either a invocation or a moment / a moment of silence. So you could do one or the other. So it's up to you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is citizens to be heard. This is the only time during the meeting that a citizen can address the commission. It is the opportunity for visitors and guests to address the commission on any issue, to include agenda items. All visitors wishing to speak must fill out the sign-in roster prior to the start of the meeting. We'll pause for just a second. Okay. The commission may not debate on any non-agenda issues, nor may any action be taken on any non-agenda issues at this time. However, the commission may present any factual response to items brought up by citizens, limiting 3 minutes each. All remarks shall be addressed to the commission as a body. Remarks may also be addressed to an individual member of the commission, so long as the remarks are one, about about matters of local public concern, and two, not disruptive to the meeting or threatening to the member of the committee threatening to the member or any attendee. Any person violating this policy may be requested to leave, but no person may be requested to leave or forced to leave the meeting because of a viewpoint expressed. This meeting is live streamed. If anyone would like to make comment on any matter regarding the city of Cibolo or an agenda item and have the item read at the meeting, please email pcivics@cibolotx.gov or telephone 210-566-6111 before 5 p.m., the date of the meeting. We do have quite a few people who have signed up to speak this evening. I will start at the top, and please excuse me if I mispronounce your name. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a quick question. You were talking about if anybody wanted to speak, they had to sign something.
This is the sign-in sheet, yes, ma'am. And that's not for the public hearings. The public hearings will be done when we get to those items, if you'd like to speak on that item.
Well, he didn't get to sign in. He wants to speak.
For citizens to be heard at the beginning, or for a public or for a public hearing?
I want to talk about this agenda right here. You know about the trailers?
Okay, when we get to that item, it will have a public hearing, and anybody can speak on that item. You don't have to sign up for that. So you'll have an opportunity to come up and speak on that specific item for that public hearing. The next item the first person on the list is Carl Latimer.
Good evening, commissioners. Can you hear me okay? I'm here to speak on discussion 8A, discussion, action, and recommendation to the mayor and city council regarding the preliminary plat of Still Creek Unit 4A subdivision. If you look at this subdivision, this Still Creek had a variance at the very beginning, or at the creation of this subdivision, to allow a much higher water flow from under 1103 onto the Still Creek property and past it, increasing the volume and the velocity of water flowing through that subdivision. There's also a future thoroughfare plan that represents a toll road that used to go through that property. And some of that toll road is in a floodplain and also now is no longer part of your thoroughfare plan because when they rezoned the 31.54 acres at the top of that toll road, they removed that from the flume or the thoroughfare plan. My question to you is, if you approve Unit 4A with 53 more homes, and you smush together Unit 6, which is adjacent to Unit 5, you will then increase the number of houses on that preliminary plat as well. And all of that area goes down into the trailer park there at the Country Lane, the crossing of FM 78 and Country Lane, where if you go back, if you ask the staff to take you back to the floodplain drawings, you will see that this subdivision causes a backup of water at the train trestle bridge that floods all the way to the back side of Val's. This is a very dangerous idea to come back and change this master planned idea without first ensuring that the floodplain administrators have taken a look at the damage that will be done to the people that are living in Val's Trailer Park or along FM 78 or any of the people that would be impacted in the downtown Cibolo area. Because that's how big the spread is from the flooding from this subdivision would become. It would flood all up the back side of where Old Main is, the back side of Main Street, and flood. So I think that if they're going to start changing or adding things in the preliminary plat, that it should be done as a comprehensive change and done through and with the approval of your floodplain administrator. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. The next person on the list is Michael Schmeichert. Yes, sir. Are you?
Some clarification at the beginning. My purpose here is
If you're here to speak on on one of the public hearings, just let me know. I'll mark you off, and then you'll come back up. Okay. Thank you. We have this issue every time. Ramil Astam?
Oh, I just signed in.
Okay, you don't want to speak? Okay. Yoko Lloyd? No? And same for William? Lisa Wally?
No, same issue. We
Okay,
just-
public hearing? Okay,
Yes, thank you. For Ken as well.
okay. Darlene Shell?
No, I thought we were just signing in.
Okay. And then Mike and Gail, I think it's Quinn?
Just signing in.
Okay. We will try to be more clear about that in the future. Maybe we'll put a little sign up because it happens every time. The next item on our agenda this evening is the consent agenda. Consent agenda item 6A, approval of minutes from the September 13th, 2023 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Did all the commissioners have a chance to take a look at these minutes, and do you have any questions or change requests? No? Okay. The next item on our agenda is sorry, I have to take a vote.
Yeah, I'll move we approve the consent agenda items A and B.
Okay. Good. Well, I have
What?
to read B first. You can't do A and B. Do you want to wait? Or can we do A and B together? Okay. Let me read B, and then we can take your motion again.
That's where I had a question though, because it says for September and October, but in October it says we approved in September. Miss Beaver made the motion to approve. Am I mixing that up? Do you see under 6? So under our October 11th. So if you look at the minutes for October 11th and you go to 6A, It has approval of the minutes from September 13th, and then it says Ms. Beaver made the motion to approve it. So is that a duplicate? Okay. Okay.
So we only need to approve it.
October. Yeah, okay.
Then I will take your motion, Mr. Hines.
So moved.
You have to state it again, unfortunately.
Nice try, nice try.
Let's approve the, make a motion to approve the consent agenda item A, the minutes of the October P and Z meeting.
We have a motion, and we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on our agenda are the public hearings. Item number 7A, the City of Cibolo Planning and Zoning Commission will conduct a public hearing to hear public testimony regarding a variance request to UDC Section 18.17.A to waive the requirement for sidewalks for certain real property located at 508 North Main Street, legally described as Lot 2, North Side Addition, .32 acres.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect.
When you lean in.
Yeah,
Okay.
pull off to the side there, Lynn, maybe it's easier to release the mic.
Happens every time. Okay. So this is a variance request for 508 North Main Street to waive the requirement for sidewalks per section 18.17.A of the UDC. 508 North Main is approximately 3.25 acres. It is located in the Old Town mixed-use overlay, also downtown. It is zoned community retail and office C2. It is within Council District 7. The proposed use is personal services. So the applicant property is located within the Old Town mixed-use overlay district. The district is it is directly surrounded by property zone C2. High-density, single-family SF6 zoning district is across North Main Street from the applicant property. There are sidewalks on this side of Main Street, and currently there are not sidewalks on the applicant side of Main Street. There is also a drainage easement that runs along the applicant side that would make sidewalk installation difficult. The applicant is requesting to waive the requirement to install sidewalks on his portion of side. He has also been notified of the option to contribute to the city escrow account that would allow the city to install sidewalks at a later date. If you have any questions, the staff is here as well as the applicant.
Thank you. It is now 6:50, and we will open this public hearing if anybody would like to speak on this item.
Hello, my name is Patrick Jackson. I'm the owner of the property. The properties, you have to almost be there to see it, to understand what I'm talking about. I'm not opposed to putting in sidewalks. Actually, I'd prefer it. But unfortunately, when the city went and the city went and redid Main Street, they put in all the light posts, they put in sidewalks, and they had a choice in front of the 4 or 5 houses along my side of the street where it's too expensive to put in drainage on both sides. So they had to decide which side of the street they want to put a sidewalk on. They could put it on my side or they could put it on the other side. Well, they built crosswalks up there to get everyone off of my side to the other side of the street, and they put a drainage ditch in there. Now, for me to go back in and put a sidewalk where the drainage ditch is, extremely expensive. It shouldn't be an individual's property owners to figure out the drainage system for multiple houses going into a city ditch. It's all city property. And the cost of doing the flood survey, the engineering report would be excessive, plus the amount of concrete and metal involved to build, because you'd have to have a rail, because there would be a big drop on the side. You can't just put a sidewalk in. Much more complicated than what you'd think it'd be. Now, I went through and I was checking to find out where this would qualify in some of the city ordinances. And I found several things that I found interesting. One of them is UDC section 18.17J. The city engineer may recommend that the installation of certain sidewalk sections be deferred to a future date when topographic or other unique conditions exist that may preclude the immediate construction of a sidewalk In those instances, the city council may accept the city engineer's recommendation to defer the installation. So it could be deferred. I don't necessarily need a variance. We could defer it. I've been told to pursue the variance. If we're going to do the variance, just to start with, according to UDC section 1817/10C, a sidewalk should be located 2 feet off the street, 5 feet wide. That puts it right in the middle of the drainage ditch, which means no matter what, I have to have a variance. And then if you go to UDC section 18.17D, where utility poles, fire plugs, or other utility installations occur within the sidewalk width, the walk shall be offset around the obstacle at its full width. If the available right-of-way is insufficient to offset the walk, the city engineer must approve a solution to the problem. The city doesn't have a city engineer, and nobody wants to pay for the cost of the flood survey and the engineering report. And so if the city doesn't want to pay for that, I definitely don't think I should be paying for that. And then UDC section 18.17/4, the city council may decide by majority vote based on good reasons, including but not limited to the following criteria: to forego installation of the sidewalk in a location if, section B, construction of the sidewalk would present inordinate engineering challenges or cost, and this definitely would. So I have 4 or 5 different options that we could go by to approve the variance or the deferment. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other, looks like we have one other that would like to speak on this item at least.
This gentleman's request for a variance is an example of how poorly our downtown, old town overlay is affecting these business owners. You could put a sidewalk on his place, it would end, there would not be one on either side of him. Literally, would connect to nothing. And at the end, if you go one house down from him, you would have to cross the big giant drainage ditch that the city put in behind, across the street from the old bowling alley that is carrying a lot of the water out of that neighborhood. It is utterly ridiculous to expect this person to be able to put in a sidewalk. It's a sidewalk to a flood ditch. And that ties in with one of your other public hearings where you're talking about doing away with your landscape buffer. And I think that the language that you should be using in the downtown area should be considering handling existing drainage over the sidewalks.
Can you repeat that last part again?
I think that the UDC language that you should be looking at should be handling existing pathways of drainage over sidewalks or landscape buffers. So there are pathways that we know in Old Town that the water has to go through in order to not flood other folks' property. And I think that language should be predominantly what you're looking at in things like this variance or any changes you're making to the UDC that would have an impact on the businesses and the folks living in Old Town.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? It is now 6:55, and we will close the public hearing for item 7A. Item 7B, the City of Cibolo Planning and Zoning Commission will conduct a public hearing to hear public testimony regarding a rezoning of 2.227 located 2.227 acres, I believe, located at 12090 IH10, legally described as ABS 134 SUR Jose Flores 2.227 acres from the current zoning of general commercial C4 district to agriculture homestead AG.
Good evening. This is a zone change request for 12090 IH10 West. It is approximately 2.227 acres. Is owned by Philip and Jean Smith. It is located south of Bolton Road and just north of IH10. It is within Council District 7. It's currently zoned general commercial or C4. The future land use map calls it out as commercial. The requested zoning is, or The applicant is requesting agricultural homestead, and the proposed use, which is the existing use of the property, is a homestead. So the applicant property is surrounded by general commercial, C4, and mixed-use regional employment center, or MUR, zoning districts. The property is directly north of the applicant property is being used as a homestead, with a section of the property zoned manufactured home residential, MH1. The property directly west is within the ETJ and is also being used as a homestead. The remaining surrounding properties hold commercial and industrial uses. The applicant originally requested disannexation, and the council offered for the applicant to rezone their property to agricultural homestead instead of disannexing from the city. If you have any questions, the applicant is present, and staff can also assist.
Thank you. It is now 6:57, and we will open the public hearing for this item.
Good evening. My name is Philip Smith. This 2.27 acres is landlocked in my piece of property that is not commercial. It's it's in the ETJ, but it's not in the city. This was I signed the non-annexation agreement back in 2010. We had troubles locating that. The city came up with something that I disagreed with, and so we agreed had a negotiating at the planning department to apply for a new non-annexation agreement. That didn't come about, and for a very good reason. I agreed that if that had happened, then that piece of property would not be in the city, and therefore the lawsuit with Superior and the city would have not as much standing because of the requirements that if a resident is on a piece of property abutting is the word, to the commercial, then there's the height restrictions, the noise restrictions, and all that stuff. So I agreed, was advised by the city, and I agreed to apply for rezoning. This piece of property, I have my agriculture equipment, tractors, cutters, all this stuff there, and I feel that I wish it wasn't in the city, but since I understood the reasoning behind why the city would not approve it for a non-annexation agreement, and so I request you to let it be rezoned as agriculture. It is not encased with a commercial area. It's encased inside my farm, which is an agricultural rating. Because when the city signed the agreements back in 2010, they said that anything that is farming or residential can remain that. And so I am doing the farming on there still, even though I'm getting kind of old. And so this, I think, would be the best use for our family as far as having all agricultural. It's ridiculous that it's a piece of commercial 2.27 acres that's in the middle of the rest of my farm. There's no, even though we have an address, county address of 12,090 IH10, there's no easement for that piece of property or anything to get to that 2.27 acres. It's mine. So I'd like you to consider that for rezoning for agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item?
Shame on the city of Cibolo. Shame on the city of Cibolo for not letting this man get out of the city. The least you can do is rezone him. You've spot zoned him. You've done everything wrong that you possibly could to these people. Shame on the city of Cibolo for not letting this man out of the city. Shame on him.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? It is now 7:01, and we will close the public hearing for item 7B. Item 7C, the City of Cibolo Planning and Zoning Commission will conduct a public hearing to hear public testimony regarding a proposed amendment to Article 4, zoning regulations, section 4.7.4.3, mixed-use regional employment center, MUR district regulations of the city's Unified Development Code, UDC, to allow vehicle towing facilities and vehicle storage in MUR zoning districts.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
As you all recall, this was an item that was discussed at your last October 11th P&Z meeting. This was directed by council for us to proceed with an ordinance to allow vehicle towing facilities and vehicle storage by right in the MUR district. The proposed ordinance is attached herein in your packets. If you all remember, we talked about some proposed amendments to the MUR district, one of those being some language. So with the proposed ordinance, it's adding a section in there under section 4.7.4.3.E2, where that additional language includes certain vehicle towing facilities and vehicle storage appurtenant to shall be permitted, subject to applicable supplemental use requirements, provided that the business has been issued a permit to perform incident management towing as defined by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. Under section 6.3, the proposed ordinance will add the following supplemental use requirements for vehicle storage related to incident management towing in the MUR district. And these are like those conditions that y'all had taken a look at and recommended, which is one, the owner and operator of a vehicle storage lot in the MUR district must maintain a permit issued by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation to perform incident management towing as defined in the Texas Administrative Code. Two, the lot must be located closer than 500 feet from any state highway. Three, the portion of the lot used to store vehicles must be screened by a fence that is at least 8 feet in height so that the stored vehicles are not visible from any public right-of-way. And four, the storage of hazardous materials shall not be allowed on site. One of those other recommended changes that we have for this proposed ordinance is the removal of auto impound yards from section 3.7.4.3.E.4. We also talked at our last P&Z meeting about defining this type of use, which wasn't currently defined in the ordinance. So there's also that definition being proposed for incident towing, management towing facilities. Also attached within your packets is a zoning map that shows the existing MUR districts. Approximately 23 parcels in the city are in the MUR zoning district. Basically, any decision that affects one MUR district will affect all MUR districts with that same zoning designation. And so this proposed ordinance is going to go to council, tentatively at the December 12th, 2023 council meeting. If y'all have any questions, staff is here to answer them.
Thank you. It is now 7:05, and we will open the public hearing for this item. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item? You could have chose a seat closer.
You could have chosen, although all of the work that was done on this is amazing, but it is concerning to cup things. You could have chosen to instead amend the uses table in the UDC, allowing this type of business to be used in C4 or in industrial. But instead of allowing it a by right use in one of those types of businesses, because it's a cup in everything, you're specifically cupping it to MURs. And that is a strange backwards way to solve that problem, which I think is going to come back and bite you, as I will stand up and attest to having been bit by something like this. So perhaps while all of that research was done, it should have been done to allow it a by right use in C4 or industrial.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? It is now 7:06, and we will close the public hearing for item 7C. Item number 7D, the City of Cibolo Planning and Zoning Commission will conduct a public hearing to hear public testimony regarding a proposed amendment to Article 17 Landscaping Regulations, Section 17.1.J.3.B, to reduce the 15-foot landscape buffer required in the Old Town District when an off-street parking or vehicular use area abuts a public right-of-way.
Yes, this was also another proposed ordinance that was talked about at our last P&Z meeting. It went to City Council on October 24th, and they directed staff to proceed with this ordinance to reduce the landscape buffer distance requirement for commercial properties in the Old Town District. Currently, the city's been applying Article 17.1.J.3.B, which requires a 15-foot landscape buffer. City staff, including planning, public works, and its engineering team, has evaluated a possible reduction in the required minimum landscape buffer that would still meet the intent of the screening parking areas and allowing for the necessary landscape shrubs. Staff evaluated the current conditions of other commercial properties along Main Street, as well to try to provide a consistent treatment across that area. The proposed ordinance amends UDC Article 17.1.J.3.B by reducing the required minimum 15-foot landscape area to at least 5 feet in depth if within the Old Town Mixed-Use District. This proposed amendment will only allow for properties within the Old Town Mixed-Use District. The properties within this district tend to be non-standardized or have pre-existing conditions that make it difficult to consistently apply this ordinance. 5 feet will still provide the necessary depth for these types of properties to have the required shrubs and still create the buffering desired to protect adjacent residential properties. The existing minimum 5-foot landscape area requirement will still stay the same for other properties within the city of Cibolo. Like the previous ordinance that's being proposed, this will go to City Council for a final hearing at its December 12th meeting. If y'all have any questions, staff will be available.
Thank you. It is now 7:09, and we will open the public hearing for this item. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item?
Just one question about a point of clarification. You said the existing 5-foot buffer in the rest of Cibolo, or did you intend to say the existing 15-foot buffer? 15 foot, thank you.
Thank you.
So this directly affects my property also. I have the ditch that runs in front of my property is 22 feet, and then you got to add an extra 15 feet to that 22 feet. And so you got 37 feet off the street that I can't do anything with. And so by shrinking it back down to just a 5-foot buffer, that's still 27 feet in front of my property that I can't touch, but it gives me enough room to put in a complete parking lot and do other things. Where if I don't have that variance, these are old houses we're redoing. We can't pick them up and move them. We can't change a lot about them. And in order to make them into a successful business, we have to have the parking. And to get that little bit of easement, I think we can still make that look really good and make it work. So.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item this evening? It is now 7:10, and we will close the public hearing, for this item, 7D. Next item on our agenda is 7E. The City of Cibolo Planning and Zoning Commission will conduct a public hearing to hear public testimony regarding a proposed amendment to Appendix A of the Unified Development Code, Article 20, Subdivision Regulations to amend certain requirements for final acceptance of public improvements.
Yes, unlike the other ordinances that are being proposed, this was not heard at your last P&Z meeting, but this is a proposed ordinance to amend the required percentage of completion of buildable lots for final acceptance for public improvements, as it currently reads in section 20.3.11.B.2.B.I. After 18 months from the date of preliminary acceptance in accordance with Part 1, or when 75% of the buildable lots within the development or the unit of the development being presented for final acceptance have been developed, whichever point in time occurs last, the developer may petition the city for acceptance of public improvements by completing Part 2 of the developer petition for acceptance of public improvements. The ordinance that's being proposed tonight will amend this section of the code by increasing the percentage of buildable lots required for final acceptance from 75% to 90%. Much like the other ordinances, there will be a final public hearing tentatively scheduled for City Council at its December 12th meeting. If y'all have any questions, staff is available.
Thank you. It is now 7:12, and we will open the public hearing for this item. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item? It is now 7:12, and we will close the public hearing for this item. Item number 7F is up next. The City of Cibolo Planning and Zoning Commission will conduct a public hearing to hear public testimony regarding a proposed amendment to Article 13, Use Table, Section 13.1, Residential Uses of the City's Unified Development Code, UDC, to remove the allowance of a conditional use permit or CUP for a manufactured home from the SF2 single-family residential zoning district.
Yes, this is one of those that came before y'all at the last P&Z meeting. At City Council's October 24th meeting, they directed staff to proceed with an ordinance to remove the requirement of a CUP for a manufactured home from the SF2 single-family residential district. The proposed ordinance is attached in your packets. So the purpose of a CUP is to provide some flexibility to traditional zoning by offering a mechanism to balance the specific site constraints and development plans with the larger interests of the community and the integrity of the UDC, as stated in Section 4.3.2 of the UDC. An application for a CUP allows the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council to have additional review of certain uses and affords them the opportunity to place conditions on particular uses to make them more compatible with surrounding uses. Under the UDC, a manufactured home is defined as the residential occupancy of HUD code manufactured homes built after July 15, 1976 on small lots owned by residents and are typically meant for more permanent habitation than mobile home use. Per the table of residential uses in Section 13.1 of the UDC, a manufactured home is permitted by right in MH1 and MH2, but it requires the approval of a CUP in SF1, SF2, and agricultural zoning districts. The intent of the SF2 zoning district is described in Section 14.2.0.2 of the UDC, which states this district is established for traditional suburban development of single-family detached dwellings in a low-density setting of up to 2 units per acre. The higher intensity residential development serves as a buffer to protect this area from incompatible and nuisance issues. Mobile and manufactured homes are not permitted. The minimum standards for lots for each zoning district where the manufactured homes are permitted by right and with a CUP are referenced in the table that is below in your packets, and this is referencing Article 14.01. And there are currently no parcels in the city that are zoned SF1. There are approximately 522 parcels zoned SF2 and approximately 144 parcels zoned agricultural. A zoning map that depicts each existing SF2 district within the city is attached in your packets. Much like the other ordinances, this is set for City Council at its December 12, 2023 council meeting. Since this is a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance, staff did send out notices to notify residents within properties that are zoned SF2, as well as those properties that fall within 200 feet of each of those SF2 zoning districts. As of today, and this is about 5 o'clock before we came here, we received a total of 61 responses. We had sent out originally 1,074 notices. So of those 1,074 notices, those 61 responses, we received 30 opposed to this proposed ordinance and 31 in favor of the proposed ordinance. If y'all have any questions, again, staff is available.
Thank you. It is now 7:17, and we will open the public hearing for this item. Do we have anyone here that would like to speak on this item?
My name is Pat Rial. I live at 5500 Lower Seguin Road. We have 4 pieces of property that are all FS2s, and this is a farm. We have it is zoned as FS2 currently. Nothing we can do about that. I would prefer that I wasn't in the city either, but that's the way it is. We farmed this land continuously since 1958. We have land adjacent to us, both north and east, and they are also FS2. There's a lot of verbiage in this, and I just want to make sure that I understand. In other words, if I am in favor of not having mobile home cups being allowed, so in other words, I would want to say that I'm in favor of this. Is this correct?
If you said you were in favor of this ordinance, if we took your opinion, we would move towards disallowing cups for manufactured homes.
Okay, that's what I want. I am in favor of not allowing this land to be granted a cup for the placement of manufactured homes. For as far as reasonings go, why would the city allow placement of manufactured homes, which reduces property value? I also look at this as, why would I allow the placement of mobile or manufactured homes, which reduces my property value? So I would say I'm in favor of not allowing this land to be granted cups for placement of manufactured homes.
Thank you, sir.
I think there's a lot of people that were confused as to which way to mark that.
It can be a little, yeah. Thank you for asking, though. Yes, ma'am.
The reason that these cups are in the UDC is because it's my fault. Okay, we had a lot of legacy landowners like this gentleman, like myself, and like the Hesters, and lots of people, lots of folks own land, lots of land, and they wanted to be able to put their families on their land, and it was zoned SF2, and we kept running into problems of how could we move these people's building. Their mom, one gentleman was going blind, needed his niece to move on to the property with them, and we were trying to solve this problem for the folks that had existing legacy land. And we were assured, the Planning and Zoning Commission at that time were assured by staff that this would never be used in developed or subdivided developments, because everything is pretty much zoned SF2 now, or back when this actually occurred. But so when we had an altercation or an incident come up, because the CUP allows that land to not meet the safety requirements, the public health and safety requirements, you can waive any and all reasonable regulation. And that's what happened. And so I began to do research because this did not meet the requirements of what the folks in Cibolo had asked us to do, which was to find a way for them. And lo and behold, the great state of Texas constitutionally allows us as farmers and ranchers and landowners to subdivide our land up to 4 times within 3 degrees of consanguinity or affinity without being harassed by anybody, until we become part of a municipality. So all the municipality had to do, in this case the city of Cibolo, was to rezone that ag land ag and give these folks their constitutional right. Whether they built houses on it or they moved a trailer house onto it was of no real consequence, because they were following their constitutional right to do that as long as it was within 3 degrees of consanguinity. So this law, this ability to cup in SF2 is an egregious breach of public trust, because you purchase a piece of property thinking that you cannot have a trailer house be built in or brought into the lot next to you, and we allow it. And it's a very sneaky way of undermining the value of those folks' property, and also the safety regulations. We have a statutory obligation to the public to allow our development to be safe. And the cup circumvents that. So please do away with the cup. Know that the city council has passed regulation, and it are rezoning legacy landowners back to ag and giving those legacy landowners their Texas constitutional right to do that.
Thank you, ma'am. Question for you, Aaron. You stated that manufactured homes are not allowed in an ag. Did you say that? I could pull the book out, but I thought you had said that, so I figured I would just ask.
Yeah, no, they're allowed right now with a cup.
With the cup.
With the cup.
But this is just removing it for SF2.
SF2, yes, ma'am.
Just
that's
wanted
correct.
to make sure we're all clear here. Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. You can state, and I didn't do this for everybody, I apologize. Can you state your name and your address?
Hello, my name is Dean Debo. I'm at 321 Norwood Court, Cibolo, Texas, 78108.
Thank you.
One of the reasons why I'm here today is each time you guys have a public hearing, I never get anything in the mail.
And you have property near the properties that we're discussing?
I'm not more than a mile from my mom's house in Foxbrook,
Okay.
so I never get any literature from you guys at all.
It's like 250 feet. It's not a lot of distance that they have to notify, unfortunately. And so that might be why you haven't gotten any of these. The ones that went out for this, the SF2, to anybody that was zoned SF2 got one. So that's why we have a lot of people here today, and we had a lot of responses. I mean, there were 1,071 notices sent on this item, but that's very out of character. So if you can give us your address, and if there's specific public hearings that you missed out on because of it, we can definitely have city staff look that up for you and see how far you are from them and see what happened, if it got lost in the mail or something like that.
Well, my biggest concern is my mom is here also, and she was the one that received the paperwork. Okay, so I have vested interest in that property as well, and that's 425 Foxbrook Way.
And that's a
Cibolo.
SF2?
That isn't that's a single family home, yes.
Okay.
Okay, but my biggest concern is not getting the paperwork, right?
Yeah,
which
we
you
want our public to
explained.
know, yes.
All right, because we believe, and then some clarity, the language relative to that ordinance.
Mhm.
I believe it could be a little bit more clear. That would help a lot of things going on with questions and concerns for all parties concerned.
Off the top of my head, does anybody know Foxbrook? What district is that? Do you know what district you're in?
That's 2. Is it 2?
I don't think so, because I'm 2. I don't recognize Foxbrook as mine.
Because Turning Stone is 5, so.
So that's. I'm sorry. You have to remind me your name again one more time.
Fishbeck.
Miss Fishbeck. So your representative on this table is Miss Fishbeck, and your council person
Your
would.
mother's. For
Well,
Foxbrook.
yeah, I get what you're. Yeah, and then your council person would be Miss Norma Sanchez Stevens, correct? Right, that's 5. So it is good when you're feeling a little bit out of the loop to kind of stay informed. I don't know if you have social media or Facebook, but a lot of these council members and commissioners on whichever committees are trying to. Seems like that's the wave of the future is social media. More people will see this meeting is happening because of Facebook than they saw the paper go in the mail. So please always feel free. I know that all of the council people always say, come to us, ask us questions like email, text, call. They're really happy to answer any of these back questions you may have. So
Okay.
utilize that for sure, please.
Also, if you just reach out and you say, you know, I have a mother that lives in your district and I'm trying to stay up on everything, so I might not get the notices. Can you reach out to me with anything going on in relation to this, and this? They will definitely do that. They're all very friendly and very good at communicating.
Well, is that an actual option though? Does the city, do you guys add someone
So
separate
for-
to like a mailing
no,
list?
I meant to reach out to the council member and ask
Oh.
the council member to reach him.
Yeah, for clarification, when we do the mailings, we pull the property information from GCAD. So if your name and contact info is not on the Guadalupe County Appraisal District, we're not sending the notices to you. We are sending them to
I'm on it.
the mailing address that is listed on GCAD.
So basically who your deed is.
Yeah, I'm with Guadalupe.
Okay. Yeah, I
I'm
would
in the
definitely
Heights of
reach out to
Cibolo.
the council member, and
Okay.
you could reach out to Fishbeck,
right.
and we can definitely, we want our citizens to know what's going on in the city. We prefer for you to come and tell us what you want. I mean, it makes our jobs a lot easier.
Right.
And
I
all
think
our-
I speak on.
Sorry. All our public notices are published online as well. If you ever get wind of a public hearing, we do publish every single public hearing notice on the planning website.
When do those renew? So you're posting, I know I should know this. Is it the first of the month? Like how, that way he can go and if you need to look online and be like, oh, the 10th of the month, here's all the new stuff
set a
that's.
reminder.
Yeah, what is the.
So whenever we send out for, these last ones went out, what is it? We posted in the Seguin Gazette on October 22nd. So that week before the 22nd is usually.
So is there a
It's not a
consistent
definite
day or
date.
date or like how our meetings are the second Wednesdays? Is there always like by the first Wednesday of the month, the public notices go out? Like what is the pattern that someone can pay
2 weeks
attention
before,
to?
2 weeks before.
So 2 weeks before. So these meetings are always the second Wednesday of the month.
Okay.
So 2 weeks before the second Wednesday of the month, there'll be an updated log online that he could access, even if he's not getting a paper copy. Does that help at all?
Yeah.
A little bit. I know. And please spread that to the rest of your neighbors because I know there's people that also need to know that, right?
Yes.
So keep circulating that if you can.
Thank you.
Did you have any other items to speak on tonight?
I just agree with, I agree with what the gentleman and the young lady said.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Yes, please? I was just going to ask who's next.
I'm sorry, I'm the mother.
Yes, ma'am.
What
If
really
you could just state your name and address.
Yes, Rita Fell, 425 Foxbrook Way.
Thank you.
Okay. I got this letter
Yes, ma'am.
and this map. I can't even find what's going on this map. There's so much stuff that's over on top of each other that you can't figure out where your place even is.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm 80 years old, so I need some help in knowing what's going on because I'm not in favor of having some manufactured homes put near my home over there.
Yes, ma'am.
So, however we were supposed to say it to where you don't want them there,
Yes, ma'am.
that's what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Someone else said it really good here, but I can't repeat what she
Yes,
said.
appreciate it.
Okay, so is that all we need to do to
Yes,
let
ma'am.
people know that?
And if you receive any further notices and you can't find your house on the map, your neighborhood, please call the number that's on there and they can either have you come by, they can send you a zoomed in map or something like that. They can definitely direct you to be able to help you find that information. So please don't hesitate to give staff a call because they're here to help.
Okay, because it doesn't feel very good when you're getting stuff that you can't read and really understand what's going on. It almost feels, and I don't like saying this, but it feels like it's being a little deceptive because you cannot tell where they're talking about.
I can totally understand that, and I would say to this everybody, please call staff and they can explain it to you. I had to ask questions about this specific item when we discussed it last because it was very unclear when we had the discussion item. So I mean, staff is here to help us. I had to do additional research so I could get an idea of how I feel. So please reach out to staff and they can help you with anything. If it's unclear the language, you're the third person that said that.
Yeah.
Please reach out to staff and they can definitely help you.
Okay, so it's this information, Lindsay Walker? And
That's right here.
okay,
Miss-
she's Lindsay. Okay,
Yes,
it
ma'am.
helps to put a face to
It
a
does,
name.
yes.
And so you've got me on record that I don't want the
We
manufactured
do.
homes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would also suggest on the bottom of that form that you fill that out and that you give it to Ms. Simics here because this is also going to be going to council. They see it in December, and so that form will be added to the tally that goes to the council in December. So I would suggest that you fill that out. And if the language on there is unclear as to which one to check, just wait around for a second. Somebody can help you decide which one you want to check because we know that you're not in favor of
Right.
manufactured homes next to you in an
Okay.
SF2.
Okay, because I wouldn't be able to come because I'll be on the West Coast in December. So
Yes, ma'am.
I won't be able
You
to.
won't need to be here as long as you fill out that form. Your voice will be heard.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Carla Cope, and I live at 839 Country Lane.
Yes, ma'am.
Out there, what used to be the country until we got annexed against our will, used to be called out in the country. And we have a mobile home, a manufactured home. There was on our property, which is a little less than a quarter of an acre, there was a double wide that was put together poorly when we moved on to it years ago. Don't ask me what year, a long time ago. We have since then had that taken down, and we bought our own mobile home about 40 years ago. And we have taken very good care of it. We are not trailer trash, like some people like to think. We take very good care of our property, our quarter of an acre. Oops. We have neighbors in front of us. We have neighbors behind us. We do not live too far away from the Hesters. We've known them forever as well. And I think that with people having, I can understand why some people have a bad look at mobile homes, especially when they don't take care of them and blah, 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 blah. However, one of the other reasons is when we were annexed in 2010, long time ago, I got this piece of paper that shows all the things that the city of Cibolo promised us. Yeah, right. I know none of you were probably on the thing, board. We were promised sewer systems. Nothing. We still have our septic tank. We get it emptied all the time. We were promised paved roads. And the quote was at that meeting was that they will be just like in a housing addition. Nice, smooth roads with curbs. I'm not too crazy about the curbs. If you wanted to put them in, okay. If not, okay. Nothing. All that has been done was a layer of whatever it was that they put out there. We still have our dips, we still have our holes, we still have everything. That's just, the only thing we don't have is the dirt. It's horrible. Sewer system, nothing. Absolutely nothing has been done. And we have been so disappointed. And I have spoken to many of my neighbors, and they said, why go? Why go to the meetings? We're not going to get anywhere. And I think that's pretty sad for a city that I have really grown fond of. We have raised our children there and everything. I can understand why some people don't like them because people don't take care of them. We do. And as in 2010, when we were annexed, we get our police protection. They come out there once in a while, driving up and down the road. And we can see them going, boom, 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 too. You know, I'm sure they appreciate it. We have our fire protection. Our water system. We have water. It's not too bad, I guess. But water waste. Like I said, we have no sewer lines. We have to empty our septic tank all the time. And it's not cheap. It just cost us $800 to get it emptied. And it's not a huge, great big huge old tank. It's been there since we've been there. Sorry. Didn't mean to apologize to the mic. So I'm really concerned about that, and I'm concerned about the water. You know, the drainage ditches, the roads. And you go down, let me think of that, Tolley Road? Yeah, right. The only people that got anything done to their road was right in front of the Hesters. And it's crap now. Yeah. Right? She agrees. So, for us being annexed for so long into the city, and nothing's being done out there. Our taxes have gone up. You know, for what? We move, we decide that we don't want our mobile home. We can't move it. And we can't buy another one. What is wrong with a mobile home? They are some of the nicest homes. Some of them even are better, even look better and are better than some homes that are built on the ground. And I know you all know what I'm talking about. So please, keep our little community out there. And please keep your promises of what Cibolo said that they were going to do when y'all annexed us. Fix our roads. My gosh, they're horrible. Granted, not as bad since y'all got that one layer, but they are horrible. And the septic line, we were promised that too. And it's been 2010 is when we were annexed. Nothing. And I don't understand why we can't put another mobile home there. Because ours is getting old. We take care of it.
To be clear, to ask staff, if there is an existing mobile home, they would be grandfathered. They wouldn't have to receive a cup. Or not mobile home, manufactured home, I gotta use the right language.
I understand.
And what if they decided to, upgrade in the future? Would they have to rezone? Or would that lot be grandfathered?
You're located in the Val's Mobile Home Park?
No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
we have our own property on Country Lane.
On Country Lane, which side of 78? The I-10
Okay.
or 35 side?
35 side.
35 side.
It's
near Tolly.
We pass Val's to get to our house.
Okay.
And then you come up to Country Lane and you have to take a right and go around the corner. And around the corner.
Oh, okay. More towards Marion. Okay.
Yeah, just right down that road going that way.
Yes, ma'am.
Towards Sassman Road,
Okay.
thank you. We have a little less than a quarter of an acre. It's nice. It's a lot to mow.
Can we,
We-
can we look at
It
language
is.
to,
Okay.
to talk through that, maybe to be amended? I know we can talk about this during our discussion item, but she brought up a really great point.
Yes. And you can't replace more than 50% of the value of a legal nonconforming use. So she can't do replacement.
You couldn't move
Complete
one off
replace-
and then put a whole
Correct.
other.
The ordinance does not allow
Without
for that.
rezoning to a MF1
Uh-huh.
or something, ag, I don't know. Okay. Okay. I wanted to
MH1.
see if I could get an answer on that for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
MH1. Yeah, you would not be able.
MH1.
Under current ordinance, you would not be able to replace.
Move one off and then move a
Correct.
brand new
Completely
one on.
replace. Correct.
Why not?
That's what the ordinance, it would become a legal nonconforming use.
You would
Who made up the ordinance?
You would be able to, but you would have to either rezone your property or you would have to maybe go to the Board of Adjustments to get approval to do that.
To replace it, the Board of Adjustment would have to approve a variance.
Approve a variance for that non-conforming.
Correct.
But we would be allowed to sell it. I mean, to sell our
Yes.
property with the home on
Yeah,
it.
and there would be no issue with that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if we wanted to.
If you wanted to, you would be able to sell your property. Your property, your house is grandfathered in. This will change nothing about your property
Okay.
as it stands today.
Well, I would just like to have some of this stuff taken care of, like the roads, the water system.
Yes, ma'am.
That would be nice. This was promised in 2010 and nothing's been done. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, ma'am. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item this evening? Yes, sir.
She thinks she's the better half. Anyway, my name's Bill Cope. I live at 839 Country Lane and there in Cibolo, same place she does, okay? I don't see anything wrong with having a mobile home. It's been there for 30 years, okay? We keep good care of it. We take good care of the property. You know, it's just like anybody here, if they had a house and say a tornado come down there and tore it up. I'm kind of messed up then, ain't I? Because then I can't replace it. And guess what that does to me? Pretty much might bankrupt me. Even though I've got insurance, it's not the same insurance you get for houses. So I'm going to be the one that's going to be paying it. And I'm 71 years old. It's kind of hard to go that way, okay? We can have a fire. Anything can happen. Houses burn down every day, okay? What they're trying to do now is say, look, I can't do it. I've been out there since 1980. Now all of a sudden somebody comes in here and says, no, I can't do something. And you can see where the anger comes in. There's no reason why I can't do that. It's just because now you come up with an ordinance. Okay, we need to rethink this a little bit because all the way down Country Lane, there's mobile homes. All the way down. Now, some of them aren't real good. Some of them take real good care of their property. I'm one of those ones that take real good care of it. So I'm asking you all to think about this before you go ahead and do it. Because somebody like myself, if something would happen to that mobile home right now, then I'm messed up. I've got a real problem. You're going to put me probably out of the house.
There would be options available to you, just so you know, but I understand exactly where you're coming from.
But you got to understand that
Yes, sir.
not everybody lives in a house. We live in a mobile home, and it's a very good mobile home. I don't have any problems out of it. And when there is, I fix it. Okay? That's all I wanted to say. Other than what my wife says about the roads, Tully Road is probably the biggest mess I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it's a wagon trail. It's killing our cars. It's doing everything it can possibly do, and they don't care. honestly, I don't think the city gives a care. I could say it another way,
I
but I
appreciate
won't.
you not. Thank you.
So I'm asking you to try to change your minds a little bit on this, okay?
Yes,
It's
sir.
not just about people not wanting, it's like a guy that owns property, okay? He doesn't want trailers on there. He can put that down there and when he sells his property. I don't want trailers, and that stops it. Well, the same thing can happen here. You just got you got to come up with something different language. Because, like I said, I've been there since 1980. Now all of a sudden I'm told I can't do something. You got to understand that's not the American way. That ain't America to me.
Thank
Okay?
you, sir.
Thank you.
I think we need to do a better job of explaining that right now, zoning what he lives in is critical to him. And that is why I fought to get my land rezoned as ag. So everybody knows, I live in a trailer house. I raised my kids in a trailer house, and I'm very proud of my life and who I am. However, a cup does not even afford you the right to go to the Board of Adjustments. So it needs to be straight zoning. It needs to be straight zoning. If we have manufactured housing there and they want to replace it, it needs to be straight zoning. And they would have land use or contiguous land use to give them that. Straight zoning is the only way that you get the assurance that what your current use is, you can continue to have. A cup is a very dangerous tool.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item this evening? Yes, sir.
My name is Mike Smerzak. I reside at 219 Sassman Road. I also own 239, 225, 265, and 261, all adjacent to me. I have some manufactured homes, mobile homes on some of those properties, and I have pier and beam homes on there, older ones. Some of the mobile manufactured homes are better than the pier and beam homes. Okay. So this proposed amendment, in my opinion, is to give these people, property owners, but more specifically their land. That is the valuable commodity now in this area. And these people, my neighbors, who all have, I have mobile neighbors across the street have mobile homes, behind me, to the side of me, all good people. The lady next to me is about to retire. She's been saving for 30 years and she wants to upgrade to a new one. And I told her about this and she almost had a heart attack. Okay. There's a lot of people in these areas that never wanted to be part of this municipality back in 2010. And just like this lady said, we got promised everything. I went next door at those meetings. I had a councilman tell me, Mike, don't worry, you're going to have sidewalks. Do you believe I got sidewalks? Not
I drive
hardly.
it almost every day.
Not
I know you
hardly.
don't.
But this amendment is just fundamentally wrong because it targets the poorest members of the city of Cibolo. Who should have the right to tell a property owner? Again, I go back to land, not just the property, but the land is what is so important now to the development of Cibolo. Okay, what they can put on there. If they upgrade from an old, torn up, dilapidated manufactured home to a brand new one, how can that be detrimental to the city? I did a little research, and I know y'all are the commission that has to handle this and listen to us. But the councilman, and I know who it was who proposed this, he should be here. And I'm going to go to the meeting and I'm going to ask him why he wasn't here. And what is the plain reason for this amendment? The honest reason. And it will come down to the land. They want these people, if they can't replace their mobile home if this passes, and they can't afford to build a site-built home, let alone a custom home, and the only financing they can get would be for a nice manufactured home. If that's their land, they should be afforded that right to put it there. As long as it meets the codes, it's not hazardous to anybody, or they're not doing anything wrong. That's their property. These people bought these areas, this land, their homes, to make a home. They didn't care about it going up in value. In fact, most of us hope they go down in value so we don't have to pay higher taxes. I know I do. I could care less of having it go up in value. My intent and what these people also bought that property for is to pass it on to their kids or other family members. So I disagree with everybody who says, I don't want manufacturing. I could care less what my neighbor does. As long as they're obeying the law and they're not endangering me or nobody else, they should have that right if that's their property.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item this evening?
Can we add?
No, I was told no. Usually the answer is no, but we will. You will have an opportunity to speak to council, though. The next item on I'm sorry. It is now 7:53, and we will close the public hearing for this item. Thank you, everybody, for coming. If anybody's headed out, the next item on our agenda is item 8: discussion action items. Item number 8A, discussion, action, and recommendation to the mayor and city council regarding the preliminary plat for Steel Creek Unit 4A subdivision.
Yes. Good evening, commissioners. This is a proposed preliminary plat for Unit 4A of the Steel Creek subdivision. The owner is Continental Homes of Texas, represented by Pape Dawson Engineers. It is 15 acres in size in Council District 7, zoned plan unit development, proposed for 59 lots. City of Cibolo will be the water and sewer provider, and electricity will be provided by GVEC. This proposed preliminary plat is for 15.505 acres in size, establishes 59 single-family residential lots and 2 open space lots. A plan unit development and land study were approved in 2018. This plat establishes 3,148 linear feet of roadway. A regional drainage study was submitted at the time of land study that accounts for all further development of each unit. Compliance with the approved drainage study was verified as part of this review. Staff and the city engineer have reviewed the plat and associated documents. Per the letter attached, there are comments pending. Therefore, staff is recommending denial of this plat at this time. A representative with Pape Dawson Engineers is here if you have any questions, and staff is also available to assist.
Thank you, Grant.
Thank you.
I will open the floor for any discussion on this item. Any commissioners have any questions?
Hi, my name is Becky Carroll. I'm with Pape Dawson Engineers. I'm representing the developer, D.R. Horton, who couldn't be here tonight. We did receive comments just today at the end of the day, 2 additional comments that we are working on addressing. And I will say in response to, I think, a few of Ms. Latimer's concerns, I guess she has left.
She headed out.
Okay. So Unit 4A is within the Town Creek watershed. There was a drainage study that was previously completed regarding the Town Creek watershed and a tributary to it. So the 4A unit that we have on the agenda today is not within the floodplain for either of those. We will be when we get to those other units that are adjacent to it. We will be doing FEMA studies associated with it. She did mention also a mobile home park
that was downstream that I think would actually benefit from the development because we will be collecting the water within 4A and some of the other units and actually discharging it directly to the low as opposed to into any of those adjacent developments. She had also mentioned the toll road. I think that was proposed as on the major thoroughfare plan. I believe it still is. There is a reserve. It is not part of 4A. So again, many of the items brought up are not regarding this development on the agenda. But that reserve is there. We are respecting it. We are not doing anything with it other than reserving the land. And the unit that we have proposed today is consistent with the future land use or the land use study that was also completed. Were not any significant changes that were made. We didn't add any extra lots or change the density or do anything like that. So it is consistent with the land use study that was also previously completed.
Question for you. I don't have all the sheets for review.
Okay.
There's a retention pond? You said you would be collecting. I don't see one on
So on 4A in that watershed, no, there are not any detention ponds proposed. On other units, there are that drain to the tributary, as I mentioned. When I say collected, I just mean by the streets and stormwater infrastructure, any pipes that we have, curb inlets and pipes that we would install in the streets collectively.
Okay.
And I do have one question. That previous land study that you're talking about was the one in 2018?
That sounds about right. It was done by CUTE engineers.
And the comments that were issued by the city engineer on October 31st, have those all been addressed?
So if you're looking at our letter, I think it was actually November 3rd. There were 15 comments, I'm sorry. We had addressed all of those. There were 2 that we got back. One of them was a clarification to one of those, just kind of an error on our part. And then the second one was regarding alignment of 2 of the intersections based on additional information that we provided. So we had addressed all of the other comments that they initially provided on November 3rd. We received 1 new comment back and 1 kind of clarification that we didn't quite address correctly.
Okay, we don't have a copy of that letter. We have the October 31st letter.
Yes. So the letter that was issued today was the review letter with a response to the comments issued from November 3rd. So the letter from today is not in your packet since at the time of posting. The November 3rd letter was only.
We don't have a November 3rd letter. We have October 31st.
Do you have one October 31st that has 15 comments on it? It's got.
Yes. That's
okay.
what we have.
That's the first round of comments.
Okay.
Dated October 31st, was not distributed until November 30th.
Got it. It comes to you guys. Yes. Okay.
Back from all reviewing departments like Public Works, Fire.
I just wanted to make sure we had all the information. Thank you. So this is what you're referring to as the November 3rd.
Correct.
Thank you. Do any of the other commissioners have questions?
It's just one concern, and it's we can't predict, what might happen. But we have had in the past, several years back, we've had a subdivision that was being developed, and before they had the opportunity in their next section, before they had an opportunity to build the retention pond, we had a pretty massive rain, and so there was nothing there to handle that. How do we do that? That was a lesson learned. So how do we prevent that from happening again? How long would it take from 4 to 5? Because in 5, it was 5, correct? That you're planning the retention pond.
That is in Unit 6.
Right, because Unit 4B would be your next unit, right?
So after 4A, there are a few options. I think actually we are submitting Unit 9.
Okay, right, because Unit 5 was just complete.
Yes.
But to answer your question, I believe staff can confirm this or tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. But the plats are not approved by the city engineer unless the drainage calculations work for that specific unit to pass before retention or additional drainage infrastructure or any of that is necessary, correct?
That is correct. So review of drainage is checked during each unit's review. So compliance with the approved regional drainage study that was approved at land study, that's verified
Did that answer your question, Mr. Hines?
To a point. It's still one of those things that makes me go, But to a point, thank you.
I do have a question for staff.
Yep, I think you're on. Nope, you're not. Oh, you are.
So, I had asked for a copy of the floodplain when I was reviewing the paperwork, but that's not current, correct? We don't have a current. I thought it was several years old, the floodplain we have for Cibolo, that shows where the floodplain is.
Our FEMA flood map, is that what you're
Oh,
asking
FEMA
about?
flood map, I'm sorry.
The FEMA flood map is. It is the most recent. It is quite a few years old, but it is the most recent available.
And how recent is that one? The one that, the floodplain that we have?
I want to say it's
On-
2018 too.
2018 also. I know that there are, land studies and drain studies done, but if it's not current, like it's 5-6 years, how are we knowing, I guess piggybacking off of what Mr. Hines is saying, how are we knowing that it's gonna work?
So I can help answer that. So if it's adjacent to a FEMA floodplain, we will actually do a study, and the city should be requiring floodplain development permits and flood studies that usually will ultimately get submitted to FEMA to actually remap the FEMA maps. So, for example, Unit 6 that we are in the process of permitting, we have recently submitted a what is called a CLOMAR, which is a FEMA flood study. So we actively do that with development. And the intent of those is to go to FEMA to remap the FEMA flood maps.
And you are in the process of doing that with the other.
Unit 6.
Unit 6, correct.
There's-
That is the one to the east.
My concern is, because I live in this neighborhood, is that this is a video that I took when it was pouring rain that last time, and the entire neighborhood was flooded. And this was supposed to have already been approved and good and going through FEMA and the flume and the thoroughfares, but yet we still have this problem. And that's right now.
Okay.
After everything's been approved, after you guys said everything's good, we're taking care of this, we're taking care of that, but that's the result still. So
Okay.
I'm just trying to get some real clarity because right after 4B, you're saying you might move to 6. And 6 is right there in that thoroughfare, in that flume.
Yes, Unit 6 is over on the east side, east of 4A. We have submitted a CLOMAR, which is a FEMA, what will go to FEMA, that is in review right now. I'm not familiar with the area you're referring to.
Still Creek.
Right.
Right where Valiant Valley and Town Creek Way is. The whole neighborhood.
I say I'm
really.
not familiar with it. We weren't the engineer of record for those units that are on the ground right now. That's
Okay.
the only reason I'm saying.
So you weren't there for the other units that were
No,
built
They didn't
in
design 'em, is what she's
in
saying.
in 2020. I guess it would have been 2020, 21. Okay.
Right. No.
But they do have to take that information and put it into their plans and their drainage study. So the funny thing about that, and I just from my knowledge over the many years I've been doing utilities, is that the streets look like they're flooded, but as long as they drain in a certain amount of time, that usually meets the requirements. It just depends. So I know it scares everybody to see the streets flood and everything. It scares me because you don't know, is that retention pond down the way? Is the inlet clear? All those things, But the studies that they have to do, the reports that they have to file, they all have that type of requirement that they time how long it takes to drain the water off the roadway and into the retention ponds or drainage structures or whatever. So I just want to throw that out there just for extra knowledge for anybody that didn't know that. I don't think that we should just skip over drainage concerns, though. It's always something to talk about. Anybody else have any questions? Ms. Fishbeck, do you have any questions? No? What about you, Jen?
No, I'm just trying to confirm because I was trying to look at that so all of the 15 notes you're saying were or were not taken care of.
Well, and
we still have some outstanding comments. Two outstanding comments.
Yes.
Were they
So-
new comments or were they existing that
The
didn't
ones
get
that were
addressed?
shown there. I mean, in the time frame, probably from when they received the letter till now, maybe you guys didn't have time to address
the letter
everything.
when I was driving over here.
So there's still things. So, I'm more moved to deny it because we haven't gotten everything completed. But I don't want,
And if
I
will
understand it's kind of
say
like time's
that-
overlapping. Time hasn't been your friend right now to fix all of those.
No, I mean this is a hard time frame for y'all's third party engineer to work within too. So we're collectively only given, I guess, a month, right at a month for them to review, give us comments. It's not much time at all. So I will say, I mean, if there is an option to table this till the next hearing, we do have time where we can address those comments and come back with a better recommendation.
Well,
Thank you.
we would go to council after this, and if you
Yes.
met and finished your comments, then council would have they would make the
Correct.
final
So
decision
we would
anyway.
make
So
a
you still have another 2 weeks?
Yeah.
A
no,
month.
it's
There's
December.
no
December. Okay.
there's no second council meeting in November, so this would go to city council on December 12th.
So you
Due
have
to the
almost
shot
a
clock,
month.
We have to make a recommendation.
Right.
Yeah.
But like Jen was saying,
You have almost a month to get those last 2 comments.
correct. Yeah. If we make our recommendation for denial and then the comments are met, the council will hear our recommendation, which is just that, a recommendation. And then they'll see that all comments are responded to and the city engineer is signed off on everything. And then they can go ahead and approve
Okay.
after that. Correct.
Yeah.
Staff makes their own recommendation to staff. Or
Okay.
to
And if
council,
y'all
I'm sorry.
deny this, do we require, or will city council, do they have to have a supermajority? No. Okay, thank you.
Well, we would deny pending the
We would give
comment.
reason, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
we
we
have to
would
give a
deny-
reason for denial,
And
which
then
would
if
be the
you
pending comments.
If you met it, then it wouldn't.
Okay,
Yes.
so the 2 comments that are outstanding, I know you can't see the plat. One of them is because the text on our scale is incorrect.
Okay.
The bar scale is incorrect, so we have to fix it. Instead of the 200 that's on there, it needs to say 100, okay? The other one is the intersections. There are 2 intersections that they asked for the angles for that don't meet code, so we have to adjust the angles so that they're not so skewed. Those are the only 2 comments outstanding, so they're pretty easy for us to address.
Thank you.
Sure.
Never mind. Okay, I would entertain a motion if anybody has one. Okay, I'll make the motion, because I know the reason. I move to recommend denial of the preliminary plat of Steel Creek Unit 4A subdivision to City Council and Mayor for the reason of outstanding review comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you for your time, Ms. Carroll.
I think Ms. Hubbard really wants to keep it on record, as most of us up here are, that it is so concerning, the water. And I do understand that, I'm dealing with it in my community. And so
Mine
I hope that the city and the staff and our council and everybody that is participating tonight really does understand that just because something with FEMA was done 5 years ago or 4 years ago, now all the different impervious coverages, all the new homes, all the buildings, all the concrete, all of that stuff has changed. And I wish there was a way that we could update these studies, like just, I mean, I know it's expensive, so I know we can't do it every time or every month or every 6 months, but it really does alter that pathway of water every time a house goes in.
It does.
And that's so frustrating on our side,
Yes.
I think, to see that.
Yes, I agree. And each report that gets issued, each drainage report takes all of the existing and I believe proposed improvements into consideration. They have to take that into consideration. But what I would like to push forward, and this is really important, is just because it meets the requirements does not mean that it's good enough for the city. I know that they only have to meet requirements, but we can entice them to do more. There are brand new Cibolo Valley Drive roads that have been done, and the water just backs up. I mean, I would just recommend that we take a look at what the requirements are and see if those are actually meeting our needs and for the citizens, the city, and to make sure it's not doing damage to brand new infrastructure that's put in. So just because it meets the minimum doesn't mean that it's
it almost
good.
needs to be a living document where it constantly changes, which is, I know we've really been working hard at that, but I mean, I don't think anybody knew 10 years ago is what I keep hearing, that we were going to be as big as we were now. So,
Right, and that's my biggest concern is that for that particular neighborhood, there's still 6-7 years of building left to do. I mean, we're not even done. So then that same FEMA thing gets pushed out and pushed out and pushed out.
Please correct me. The FEMA map is issued by FEMA, correct?
Yes.
So it's not a study that the city of Cibolo does. It's put together, like Ms. Carroll said, with a bunch of information that's provided as developments happen, and it gets updated. Is there a schedule? Does anybody know? I know none of you are the flood plan administrators. If we could find out that information, I know that Jen had asked about Clomar and Lomar training. I think that would be really helpful to include in that if we could also include some information about the FEMA flood map. We do have a lot of drainage issues and flooding in this area, so I think that would be good to add to that agenda item when we do the Clomar and Lomar.
Is there a way we can request that they do a current one?
No. It's federally funded. They do it when... But
federal's going to
be...
Yeah, if you think city staff takes a long time,
They're
wait till
gonna
you work with a federal staff.
I don't do...
Shh, don't listen to me, government.
Most like requirements are every 5 years for a lot of things. So I'm kind of thinking that one is, but if you guys could find out and let us know, that would be helpful. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is item 8B, discussion, action, and recommendation to the mayor and city council regarding the final plat of Barsalou Estates subdivision.
Yes, this is a final plat for the Barsalou Estates subdivision. The owner is Elaine de Munbrun, represented by Heather Steed with Sherwood Surveying. 5.684 acres in size, located at 1809 Green Valley Road in Council District 5, zoned SF2 low-density single-family residential, proposed for single-family residential use. Utility providers will be water by GV Sud. City of Cibolo is also an available sewer provider in the area. However, this property will be served by on-site septic facilities, and they have provided proof of approval from Guadalupe County with the plat submittal. The property owner is proposing to establish 2 lots from the existing 5.684 acre tract. Lot 1, 1.456 acres, and Lot 2, 4.244 acres. An existing single-family residence will remain on the newly created Lot 2, and the newly created Lot 1 is proposed for single-family residential use by family members. The preliminary plat for this project was approved in July of 2023, as well as a variance request to Section 18.2 H5 of the City of Cibolo Unified Development Code, which requires 1 point of access to a public street with a minimum right-of-way width of 60 feet. However, the point of access right-of-way width proposed with the plat is 51 feet and was approved with the variance request. The drainage plan was reviewed and approved in June of 2023. This proposed subdivision does not warrant dedication of parkland per the UDC. Staff and the city engineer have reviewed the proposed final plat and documents. So this is an update. They have since addressed the comments that are included in your packet. Therefore, staff is ready to recommend approval of this plat. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I will open this item for discussion amongst us commissioners. Does anybody have any questions? No?
So it looks like all they're waiting for is a letter that designates that this new home site will have an easement of the existing driveway. They'll be able to use the existing driveway.
So They have since addressed that comment. The comment was to show, since the two properties will use one driveway, was to add a shared access easement to the plat. They have since done that. So that comment has been addressed.
Okay, so no longer, you're not recommending a denial?
No, we are recommending approval.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Ready? All right, I'll move that we approve the, well, let me find your language. I move that we approve the final plat for the Barcelo Estates subdivision located at 1809 Green Valley Road. Property owned is proposing 2 established lots from the existing 5.684 acre tract. And this addresses lot 1, 1.456 acres, and lot 2, 4.244 acres. Each will be single family residences.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Hines. Our next item on the agenda is item 8C, discussion, action, and recommendation to the mayor and city council regarding the final plat of Cibolo Farms Unit 1 subdivision.
Yes, this is a final plat for Cibolo Farms Unit 1, owned by Lennar Homes of Texas and Construction, represented by Mary Stewart with Civil Engineering Consultants. 46.005 acres in size, located outside city limits in the ETJ, proposed for 145 residential lots, 1 park and recreation center lot, 1 non-residential lift station lot, 5 open space lots, and 3 open space and drainage lots. This development is located outside city limits in the ETJ. An amended land study for this development was approved in 2021. The drainage plan for this development was approved with the preliminary plat. Staff and the city engineer have reviewed the proposed final plat and associated documents. In an update to your report, they have since addressed all comments. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of this plat.
I will open this item for discussion from the commissioners. Is there any questions for staff?
I don't have anything on this one at all. Does anybody else?
I do not.
I do not.
Okay. I will make a motion to recommend approval to the mayor and city council the final plat of Cibolo Farms Unit 1 subdivision. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is item 8D, discussion, action, and recommendation to the mayor and city council regarding a variance request to UDC section 18.17.A to waive the requirement of for sidewalks to certain real property located at 508 North Main Street, legally described as Lot 2, North Side Addition, 0.32 acres.
Good evening. This is a variance request for 508 North Main Street. Again, it is located in the Old Town Mixed Use Overlay, also downtown district. It is currently zoned Community Retail Services, or C2. The proposed use is professional services. As I mentioned before, there are currently no sidewalks on this side of the street, and if you look at the map behind you, there are sidewalks on the adjacent or across the street from it. The applicant was notified of the option to contribute to the city escrow account to allow the installation of sidewalks by the city at a later date. And I believe the applicant also mentioned earlier there is a drainage easement that runs along the property line at the front. So notice was published in the local newspapers, local newspaper, Seguin Gazette, on October 22nd, 2023. It was also published on the city website Individual letters were sent to 12 property owners within 200 feet of the site, and to date, staff has not received any responses. Public hearings are scheduled on November 15th, December 12th, and approval or disapproval of the variance request is tentatively scheduled for January 9th, 2024. As far as the staff's analysis, while the applicant's property is within an area of Old Town Cibolo where there are not currently sidewalks, the sidewalk requirement would apply to the neighboring properties if they decided to redevelop their properties in a similar manner to the applicant. Enforcing the sidewalk requirement would not deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by the by other properties in similar situations. All properties undergoing development must either meet the sidewalk requirement, contribute to the city's escrow, or contribute to the city's escrow for future installation of sidewalks, or receive a variance. So the conditions are not a result of the applicant's actions. However, the applicant would receive special privileges if granted the variance, as this is a requirement of all lots under development. The applicant has the option to contribute to the escrow account in lieu of installing sidewalks themselves. City staff is researching the option to remove the requirement of the construction of sidewalks within the Old Town District. However, this is not currently drafted or adopted, therefore, the current regulations of the Unified Development Code are required to be enforced. If you have any questions, the staff and the applicant are here to assist.
I do have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there an idea of when the maybe amendment would be put through to remove this requirement or allow flexibility in this requirement for the Old Town District? I think
We don't have a timeline on that right now.
there's no timeline on it?
No.
It's just under discussion?
It's under discussion, yes.
But I'm assuming that the property can't be fully developed and certificate of occupancy given and all that stuff until all requirements are met.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is why this has to go in front of us.
Yes.
I also have a question. When the drainage ditch was put in, were sidewalks required?
It was put
At
in
that
by the
time?
city.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
that's
were
a city. That's a
sidewalks required?
city right of way. I'm not quite sure when that was put in, but I believe this may have been platted in like the 80s.
In the
Yeah.
80s.
Ms. Garcia, I'll give you a little bit of history on that. So the right of way came about because of some drainage issues on Slaughter and Main, and the city didn't have the funding to be able to do underground drainage out to the creek, and so the engineering design was to basically make water roll uphill, and so that's where these right of ways came in on these particular properties.
Okay.
And then the sidewalk, in conversation with city leadership way back when Main Street was first being redesigned, there were people that agreed with the sidewalk in their front yard, and there were people that were adamantly opposed to a sidewalk in their front yard. And after a long extended period of dealing with all of the citizens on Main Street, that's basically where the design of a sidewalk on this side, a crosswalk, a sidewalk on this side, a crosswalk, a sidewalk on that side. And that was then basically the crux of just making the decision of why you have sidewalks on one side and not on the other. But they were, the way I understand it, they were still city-funded sidewalks that were funded along with the reconstruction of Main Street at the time.
But I don't know if there was a requirement at the time, because that was a long time ago,
It was
to
a long
have
time
it
ago.
on both sides. So I
It was
think
a
that's how
desire.
they came up with the zigzag,
It-
one on
It
one
was a
side.
desire to have sidewalks on both sides, but.
Yeah, the
yeah.
property owners wouldn't agree and all that. I mean, because they would have to, the city had to acquire that right of way from them to put that there.
Yeah, because I even think when I was looking in the area, with this, I saw one house that had a sidewalk, and there was no sidewalks on. I mean, I saw where it splits off too, but
The sidewalk runs into a fence.
yeah. So I was just like,
It's a little bit of a
yeah,
mess.
so.
Also, the city doesn't have to follow their own requirements. Sorry. Yeah, he's the applicant. Do we have a question for, did you have a question for the applicant?
No, I don't.
Sure.
He says, sure. Go ahead.
That entire spot over there, the way it's set up, there's no place for a sidewalk unless you put it along the ditch. And that's where the city needs to come in, come up with a plan none of us that own those houses there should have to develop a waterway plan for that entire stretch. That's not fair to us. And so if the city came up with a plan, then I'd be completely content with that. But I know that for a ditch that goes in front of 4 houses, that's going to have the excessive cost of not only building it, but all the different surveys, the flood surveys, the engineering, the amount of metal and concrete that'll go into building that. For 4 houses, I don't know that it's worth it. It's real, maybe in the future, but not right now. And so I would love to see it done in the future. The city already owns the property. They can put it in if they want. But I need to open up my business. I need to get that going. And so I'd like to get the variance, get it moved on, and then address this in the future when the city's in a better spot. Because right now we don't even have an engineer for me to refer to. Because as it says, the city engineer can recommend to get it deferred. But we don't have a city engineer.
We do have a city engineer. He's with KFW.
Third party?
Third party, yes. He's under contract as the city engineer.
So why hasn't, I've been bringing this issue up for a while that he can get it deferred, and they told me to go through the variance. Now, in order to get the deferment, he's going to have to run these reports, the engineering report, the water. I don't think the city wants to spend the money on doing all this for 4 houses. So either way, we go back to the same point, which brings me to another thing. If the cost is excessive, then a variance can be approved. And I think we can all agree that this cost is very excessive when we're dealing with all the issues that we have here.
Yeah, definitely. So stick with me for a minute here, commissioners. Some of this stuff that I see happening in downtown Cibolo is amazing, and I love that they're taking some of these homes and they're turning them to commercial use and businesses, and they're getting kind of rejuvenated, and I understand that. So here's where I go back and forth. We are turning homes residential. So when this was a residential home, it was not required to have a sidewalk in no matter what. But because we're turning it to a commercial use, that is where the sidewalk came in, right? No. So someone explained to me the difference between him owning it as just a home, being a home, versus now it's, and what business do you have again? I'm sorry. Is it real estate?
It's not real estate.
Hair salon.
I'm keeping it quiet because if my wife's employer finds out, it can be a problem.
Oh,
So.
gotcha. So it's just basically turning into a business. So why is there a difference in the requirement when we didn't have to put a sidewalk in and now we do have to put a sidewalk in? I just like to get that out there.
That was platted in 1951.
Okay.
And the requirement was not in place at the time for sidewalks.
Okay.
So now, but however, when you're redeveloping it to
So because it was a redevelopment,
yes,
that's where the requirement
triggers,
comes in.
yes.
Okay. So I'm just gonna I'm basically I agree with him because you drive it, you look at it, you see it zigzags. I don't see the need for the sidewalk right there. I would like to see another crosswalk kind of put in because of HEB coming in. But my thing that I just want to kind of put out there to everyone is if people are going to keep buying residential home lots and they're going to convert them, you do need to take ownership and responsibility for there are different requirements. So in your particular case, I see where you're coming from, but I know there was another situation in another part of town where it was kind of the same situation. It's a home, it was residential, it definitely looks like a home. We're turning it into a business. They need sidewalks. It made sense. And I was like, I really would like to see the sidewalk there because of that location. So I understand why there's variance requests, but I also want to make people in Cibolo and us understand that, if I'm choosing to put a business in what was residential and just someone's, like all these changes in these uses come up, we still need to take per case. So in your case, I do see that it would be kind of silly to do that, but that doesn't mean that another house or, maybe 5 or 6 down in my mind, so I don't want to use this as a precedence like, oh, well, this house, we didn't ask them to put the sidewalk in. Well, because it didn't make sense for this particular house. But if you keep converting homes into commercial use, I would like the redevelopment requirements to start being met, whether it's buffers, whether it's sidewalks, whatever it is, we need to start taking that into account. That's just all I have to say on that.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on that I am a very firm believer that development should pay for development. development should pay for growth. It shouldn't fall on the taxpayers to put in a sidewalk at a later date. I understand there's drainage issues that kind of complicate this completely. And that's why I am a firm believer that the escrow should be used in these cases, because
So
you're wanting to develop inside the city limits. We have a requirement, and you're asking to not meet it. But that full
No.
dollar amount to put the sidewalks in shouldn't all completely fall on the citizens. It should be shared. And I know that developer agreement and the escrow is a little bit murky with the other one that we recommended.
It's
and
very murky, because
I understand.
you got some that they put the money in 20 years ago and it's still sitting there. And I know that there's only 4 houses that this affects, and it's going to cost an excessive amount of money to do it. If I put that money in there, I'm just giving money away. I would honestly much rather see a sidewalk built than just have my money sitting.
I understand where you're coming from a developer standpoint, but if you're putting money into an escrow account and it offsets the taxpayers' dollars for future work that needs to be done, then that's less that's allowed that you're requiring the taxpayers to put in for
But if the work
development
never
to meet
gets done,
existing requirements.
You can't guarantee
I
me
can't
that.
guarantee you that. Yes, and I completely agree that there should be a timeline. There should be something in there, and I completely agreed with that with our other applicant for Rose Tattoo. And they're still in the process of getting their agreement finalized, is my understanding, according to the property owner.
So, because of the drainage ditch, it's the 22 feet that the city owns. It's not even necessarily my property. So it's already city-owned property, and there's no way you can put a sidewalk in there without addressing the water issues. So I agree with you completely. I would prefer there to be a sidewalk there. It would look better. It would be nicer. But between the excessive costs, the reports, the engineering, the waterway, that's not my responsibility. The city is
it's
the
an
one that put
easement
the
or
ditch
it's
in
city
there.
owned?
It's an easement.
It's an easement, so it's not technically city
Yeah,
owned.
you have
It's
to
an
maintain it.
easement. Yeah. So
Yes.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see where you're coming
It
from.
technically is your responsibility because you purchased the property and you're developing it. So to meet city standards, it is still your responsibility. But what we're discussing today is if we're going to
can't-
recommend a variance.
But
for
I
that
can't go in and change
responsibility.
the ditch. I can't change, like, that's
But
all
you
the
purchased
city.
the property with all of
Yes.
those things.
Yes.
So I just explaining where I stand from and just allowing discussion to happen. So
Yeah,
please don't
that's
let
why
me-
we're here tonight is
Yeah.
to have discussion. It sounds like you ladies have had some chatter over there that maybe you want to turn the mic on.
I'm confused.
Gotcha.
This is so new to me. If it's something that the city requires,
Yes, ma'am.
it's my understanding, then and he puts money into an escrow account,
Yes, ma'am.
then why wouldn't it be guaranteed that it would get done since it's something the city is requiring? That's
That
where
would
I'm
be a
getting
question for
lost.
staff.
You're basically asking him to do something that the city wants done, but then you're asking him to put money into an account that you're not even guaranteed is going to be used for him. So it's I'm like the math isn't mathing.
And that's correct. The escrow, the original intent of it is you put money in escrow for sidewalks. It doesn't necessarily have to be put in front of your lot.
Well, that sounds
money
a little
can be
funny.
used for sidewalks elsewhere because, like in this situation,
Who
the
decided that
design of the drainage structure,
Who wrote that?
it does not allow for the sidewalk, and they planned the crosswalks to place the sidewalks across the street because of the design. But the way the escrows were built, that money's put in escrow, and then the city uses that to put sidewalks. It could be adjacent to a park or, adjacent to another area that has sidewalks that needs to be extended or something.
Well, yes.
Not
that's
necessarily
like with the
another
city.
business. It could be another just
Just
area of
anywhere.
town.
It's just
Sidewalk.
it's a
Correct.
sidewalk piggy bank, but
Yes.
we don't actually. The person that put the money in doesn't decide where the sidewalk goes.
Correct.
But
Or
if
the
it's-
money in the that
it
I didn't
could go-
understand at
Sidewalk
all.
never goes in that property. Or if the city decides a sidewalk is necessary at another time, we wouldn't go to that property owner and ask them to pay more money. The city would be footing that bill.
But that's hypocritical. We're acting like a mafia.
That's where I'm confused.
We're asking that's not
And,
that's
and
not
sometimes
okay.
it would happen, so they would escrow, and then when the other 3 properties
I need to
come
fix my
in,
face.
they could build the whole sidewalk along those 4 lots.
Who decided this escrow language? Who is that? City council? Was that previous manage? Where did
That's
this escrow
standard
language come
procedure
from?
in most cities.
Most cities in Texas, most cities nationwide.
In Texas, I'm not sure about nationwide, but most cities have escrows where you put it in if you can't, if you
Yeah,
don't
but I
want to
don't know
put
if
it
they
in.
use it on other, I don't know if other cities
That
use
sounds.
it for other,
What district are you again? You're not 2, are you?
it's 7, I believe.
Because you're not
It's
mine.
downtown, I think downtown's 7, isn't it?
7. So you're Mr.
7.
Hicks. All right.
He's
We'll be
7.
having a
He's
conversation
7.
soon.
Seven
So
covers
I
a lot.
understand that
escrow
this
is
is part of a
handled
much
properly.
larger discussion.
Yeah.
But I would like to kind of narrow it down to my unique situation. I have brought forth 5 different ways in which variances can get approved for this. I understand that in the overview of things, there's going to be a lot of people coming up asking for variances. I think mine's a very complicated and expensive situation that the city doesn't want to resolve, and I can't afford to pay for that kind of sidewalk. And so because of all the complications, I would really like to get the variance so I can get this up and going.
I have a question. I don't know if we
Yes,
can do
ma'am.
that. Okay, you brought 5 resolutions, right? We're finding some conflict resolution here, problem solving. Could we deny, I think I'm saying this right, could we deny it with could we approve it with conditions and then add the other suggestions that he suggested into our thing?
Well, one of the suggestions is that the city engineer would have to say it's not necessary. That's not gonna, we can't require that as a condition. The
Okay.
other one is to just defer it, which I believe is the same language as the city engineer.
The city engineer recommendation to defer the installation of such
Okay.
a sidewalk at a time
That's
deemed
one.
more appropriate. So the city engineer would have to request the deferral.
Okay.
Where the other ones, my understanding is, and y'all know this better than I do, the others I believe are all reasons for approval for variances. So I have 3 different codes that my property falls under that would all justify the approval of the variance.
I have a question for staff. So when you were talking earlier, you did say that you wouldn't put a sidewalk in there because of the drainage. The city wouldn't.
Right.
At this time, no.
Right.
No.
Okay, so
Now-
it's not going to be put in.
Yeah, that doesn't
At-
mean it's
at
not gonna
some
happen in the
point, yes.
future. It just means it's not in the drainage master plan or whatever.
Right now, there's not a plan to do it.
Yes,
Well,
that's,
yes,
that,
and that's why you put it in escrow, and when the city, like, whenever it becomes a capital improvement, that the city wants to put sidewalks all along that road, then that money in escrow would be used towards that project.
Can someone email me the escrow? Where in the UDC? What is that? Where is the article that defines escrow, defines uses of escrow?
it even
Because
has
how
a
did I
dollar
not know
amount
that?
Associated.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where do I get that? Because that actually upsets me right now because that makes other decisions that I've made seem like, wait a minute.
So I will also.
So where do I get that? Hold on, real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry. Where is that escrow definition? Escrow. Where do I find that? 17.1 is where it's at. You have it. And when you read that, Ms. Hubbard, do you clearly understand that what it's saying? Is it clearly written that money going into an escrow for sidewalks may or may not actually be used to suffice your requirement in front of your property for your sidewalks?
No, it won't read that way, no. And then.
So how is
there's a
anybody
lot
up
of
here
diff-
supposed to know that?
Yeah, there's a lot of different escrows, so some will be used directly for that project. It just depends on the project.
Yeah, but that doesn't make me feel comfortable as a commissioner up here. I'm not happy
Yeah,
right now.
I understand where you're
No,
coming
it
from.
says-
But I will take a step back and just say that this escrow count for sidewalks is being looked at like an impact fee. And it's, you're paying a fee, and it's dictated how much per square foot. You're paying a fee, and it might not directly go to your property, but it is going to go to the city, because you're not meeting a requirement of the city of development.
So I understand that, but in my situation, I have to wait for the city to develop a plan to figure out how they want. I cannot put in a sidewalk until the water's readjusted and the city has spent money. And so
Correct.
I cannot put
Your
in a
only
sidewalk.
options are
And-
variance or escrow.
Right. And with I really would not mind giving to the escrow if I knew that I would get a sidewalk built within so many years. Call it 3
and
years.
that's what I'm saying.
And that's-
It's being used like an impact fee. When you pay an impact fee for your water or sewer, you're not seeing the direct relationship of how that impacts, but it does impact the city.
But then
I
it should
do
be
agree,
called an
but isn't
impact
that
fee.
The taxes?
I mean, it's-
I mean, that's the taxes are so contributing
Impact
to all
fees and
that
development.
anyways.
Impact fees are directly related to development. They're not. It has nothing to do with the taxes.
I feel like I appreciate all the information we've learned here tonight. I love it. Very helpful. Brings up questions for more meetings.
So I would like to
I'm good.
refocus
I
We have
have
two
my
options ahead of
information
us.
that I need. I
Yeah.
have all the information I need.
It sounds like we have two options.
Yeah. Does everybody else have any other? Yeah.
True that. Do you guys have any questions, either for the applicant, city, or anything?
Well, no, I just agree with him. The fact that he would put money into something, he's required to put in a sidewalk, but yet his money would never necessarily be used for that. I don't find that to be good business practice at all. And the fact that the two businesses on either side of him don't have any sidewalks, the fact that there's so much water drainage and issues that have to be taken care of, that is the city issue which they need to address. So in the meantime, in order for him to proceed, the only option I see is a variance. That's the only option that I see.
Did you have any other questions?
No.
Okay. Mr. Hines? No?
Ready for motion?
We're ready. Whenever anybody would like to make a motion.
I make a motion to approve the variance request to UDC Section 18.17.A to waive the requirement for sidewalks for certain real property located at 508 North Main Street, legally described as Lot 2, North Side Addition, .32 acres.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Appreciate
you.
your time, sir. The next item on our agenda is item number 8E, discussion, action, and recommendation to the mayor and city council regarding a rezoning for 2.227 acres located at 12090 IH 35 West, legally described as ABS 134 SUR Jose Flores 2.227 acres from the current zoning of general commercial C4 district to agricultural homestead ag.
Good evening. This is a zone change request for 12090 IH10 West. It is south of Bolton Road and north of I-10. It is located in Council District 7. Its current zoning is general commercial or C4, and the applicant is requesting agricultural homestead. The future land use map calls this parcel out as commercial. As I mentioned earlier, the applicant property is surrounded by properties that are zoned general commercial and mixed-use regional employment center. However, a few of the properties surrounding the applicant property are also being used as homesteads, mostly those to the north and to the west. This request is coming as a result of the applicant requesting disannexation from the city, and council offered for them to rezone to agricultural instead. So, notice was published in the local newspaper on October 22nd. Individual letters were mailed out to 7 property owners within 200 feet of the site To date, staff has received 7 letters in favor, or 7 responses in favor and 2 in opposition. This happens, oftentimes people will make copies of the notices and
send
them in.
Got it.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I don't know how we're doing math now.
So public hearings are scheduled for tonight and on December 12th, as well as approval or disapproval of the zoning ordinance tentatively scheduled for January 9th, 2024. So staff has found that it does meet the criteria. The request to agricultural zoning aligns with the property's historical use as a homestead since 2005. Justifying the deviation from the city's comprehensive plan. This change acknowledges the property's longstanding residential character and current purpose. The zoning map amendment will promote the health, safety, or general welfare of the city and safe and orderly development of the city by aligning with the property's longstanding residential character and current purpose. It does meet all other requirements. So if you have any questions, staff and the applicant are here to assist.
Thank you. I actually do have some questions
Yes.
for the applicant. We will open the floor for discussion. If you could come to the podium, Mr. Smith.
The only correction I would make is that it's not surrounded all by commercial.
That's okay. Can you come to the podium so everyone at home can hear you
sorry.
too? I have some questions for you too.
Okay. The only adjustment or correction to her comments was that it's not surrounded all by commercial, because I'm not in the city on the property that's next to it. Then this property is in the center of that property, abutting to the 2 negative votes from Superior Concrete, by the way.
Thank you, sir, for filling us in on that.
So your question, ma'am?
Yes, sir. My understanding is that this is part of the negotiation for your request to de-annex from the city. Is that correct?
Correct. I was offered on a negotiation with the planning director and Mr. Huerta in a conference room for to put in for a non-annexation, reapplying for non-annexation.
It's a mouthful.
And that was tabled at the city council meeting, and I was approached afterwards to say, we recommend you go for rezoning, which told me that they're going to turn it down. And after I thought about that, I said, well, if I was the city, I would also turn it down, because I wouldn't want to lose that piece of property from the city because of the neighboring company next door. And so I said, okay, yes, I'll do that. I'll go for rezoning. And that's where we stand now.
Okay.
The only other thing that may have been some confusing is I have a house on that. I have 3 houses on those 2 pieces of property. One of them's not livable, and it was built in 1906. I have agriculture stuff stored in it. Then I have another house that I have a recluse handicapped man living in as a watchman. He mows my bar ditches for me. We used to have a bar ditch before Interstate 10. And then I live on the property adjacent to that. And so that was at court, they said, well, you don't live there, but there is that residence with somebody living in on that property.
Okay. I believe that the idea of you rezoning was proposed potentially as a way to reduce taxes, and I felt like it was necessary to make sure that you understood that the county taxes and city taxes that are based off of the county taxes don't change based off of zoning changes.
Yeah,
Those are based off of use. So you should already be paying your taxes based off of ag. If you haven't applied for an ag exemption, you probably should. But I want to make sure that you're aware of that in this process that you're requesting that we rezone your property. It is completely within your rights to ask us to rezone your property, and if we don't have objections and we don't see a reason not to, we would recommend approval. But I feel like it's necessary for you to know that information.
I know
might not change much.
I know to the penny how much taxes I have to pay, and I understand.
And it might actually have a negative effect if you looked to sell your property in the future, because that person, if they wanted it to be commercial, would have to rezone it to commercial. So I just feel like all the information should be available to you before you move ahead. But as of today, your request is for us to rezone, or for us to consider rezoning and make a recommendation to council. So that's what we're here to discuss today.
Yes,
so
I
I
under-
just want to make sure that you're aware.
I'm aware of all the issues you just approached.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions?
I'm sure we'll have questions for you.
I do. You have to ask me. Am I allowed to ask? Why did you ask to be disannexed? Can I ask that?
I'll answer it. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, I just want to
couldn't
make
ask it.
sure that's
I think you can ask.
because sometimes there's those gray areas,
Yes,
like
there are. We
like
don't have
because
an
you
attorney
originally wanted to be disannexed,
That's
and they're
correct.
saying we don't want to disannex you. Don't bother filling out the paperwork, but why don't you go to egg? But it doesn't sound like you really wanted egg. So I'm just trying to understand why you wanted to disannex
No,
from
I'd
the
like
city.
to have all my property. That property was in the county all the way up to I purchased a piece of property that was adjacent to it. And the clerk at the tax office said, well, why don't you just combine these two and have, 2.27 instead of a 1.1 and a 1.4, whatever it was. And I said, okay, that's a good idea. But then I found out that piece of property had been in the city, so therefore I was in the city with this.
So
And
one
so
of
it's a
those
really, it
one
goes back
point.
further than just the non-annexation agreement from 2010, which I know I signed. I don't have a copy of it, so I can't stand on that. But the properties that the staff has said that I signed the non-annexations for were not even considered in 2010. That was 2013. And so, and the ones that they said I signed was I have 3 pieces of property on the north side of Bolton Road. One of them has got a small guest cottage, which we've lived in and are still living in some aspects. Then I have a piece of property that we had a big house built on for many years that we raised our family in, and then I had 30-some acres there. And they took the back 11 acres, which was a Texas vet, and the house that I don't even own anymore, and said I signed those. And I know I didn't. But that's beside the point now. Now we've come up to where we are today, and I wanted to just have it all in ag. I'm not concerned what my children may do. I'm 79 years old. I'm still an active farmer. And
you are a farmer. That was another question that I have. What do you farm there? What is your
we
what is
do
your farm?
hay. I grow Sudan hay or coastal hay.
Okay.
And we what we've done for years, long time.
Gotcha. Okay. So no livestock. It's all hay.
No animals of any sort. No.
Okay.
Anybody else have questions? Anybody have questions for staff? No? Okay, we would entertain a motion.
Well, I mean, I'm still
I'm split on this
going
one.
back and forth because so you have what map do we have up?
I have the area that's you see the plowed ground. To the
Yeah,
left.
yours is the purple.
Yeah,
and you're
I-
saying
and
that's your
I-
2.27 acres.
Yeah, and that's the
So-
2.1 there. And then I farm Mr. Calhoun's, which is right above the purple, and I farm the 4.5 acres that's to the right, go to the right of the green, up top.
Okay, up top for Bolton.
So
On Bolton.
So staff, we have where it says heritage. That is C4 zoned. Then we have this strip of grass that is not colored at all. What is that zone?
I don't believe it's city.
So the ETJ, it all stops right.
Well, I think the
Right.
ETJ goes all the way down to.
Is it ETJ?
So
and
the
it's not
city limits.
or is
That's
it
where I'm a little
outside the
confused
ETJ?
because you're outside.
I'm outside the city limits, correct.
Here. Okay. So can someone point to me where my lines are really quick so I make sure I've got this in my head right? So city limits is where?
That whole section that's not colored.
That's in the county. That's my property that I farm, yes.
Okay, so your fields that you farm, the ones that are colored with the tank on it, that's not city limits. It's not. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm not in, the plowed ground that's green there in the middle.
Yes.
That is not in the city. That's
okay,
correct.
and that's yours.
That's mine.
And then this
and
purple one is what we're talking about today.
that's correct. I also own that.
Currently zoned C4.
Yes.
And so the red below and the red above is also zone C4. And
No.
then we have what
Yep.
looks like spot zoning to me because we have an MH1 in
Where your
between
hand is right now, ma'am,
C4.
is two residents. There's a house on the green, on that pale green, and a house on the dark there. He got annexed in the city. Yeah, he doesn't care about taxes because he's 100% disabled, so he didn't object to getting in the city. I also own property to the west, several places down along Interstate 10 there.
And there was a lady that came up earlier, but I think she was talking about Tolly Road. So with your 2010 annexation, is that the right year or was it 2013? 2010. And you don't have your form, I get that. But did you also have the same issues that she's saying over towards Tolly Road where we don't have a good road, we don't have sewer? Like, do you have city sewer? Do you have city water? Do you have
No.
fire and
Well, we have
police?
Green Valley water. We don't have any city water. The fire trucks come on Interstate 10 all the time. The police come by there once in a while, though none of that road on Bolton Road is the city's, except down by the factory to the east. And from my property, that's 1994 property, which is almost Azul Road, from there towards Hackerville Road is city, but all the rest of that road is still county.
So again, like the other lady, you're not actually reaping any of the rewards of being annexed in.
No, but I don't care about them either.
You don't care if your roads get worked on or
They're real
sewer.
bad
You don't
right
mind the
now.
septic tanks and all that.
Yeah.
He's in the same position, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find out, because I'm trying to find out why the city is like, well, we haven't done anything since 2010, even though we annexed you in, but we don't want you to be disannexed, but we don't want to complete our contract with you.
The city, when they annexed it, they were just after the tax money, the property along Interstate 10, obviously. And they didn't care about our farms, and that's why they grandfathered farms and grandfathered residents in that area.
Yeah, that was another question I have. Why wouldn't you have been ag? So you got annexed in, and then they put you as commercial, but you had a farm like
Well, see,
this
it was
whole time?
involuntarily annexed, and then it was involuntarily later made commercial. It wasn't made commercial when they annexed us in
I believe
2010.
that change was part of a master plan. That's what we talked about with another property that was right next to there, right? We did a comprehensive master plan update that changed a bunch of the zonings. We had discussed it on another property. I don't think they're shaking their heads. They might not have the info on this one. But that happened out there, that direction. We had some properties that were changed as part of a future land use map. They were rezoned.
Yeah, I mean, it's another hard one, and I guess the only fluff here is that at least we're a recommending body, and then city council gets to be the actual good or bad guys. So, but I don't understand how, I don't know.
Anybody else have any questions? I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. It sounded like you were coming to an end there.
I just wanted clarification of what you had said earlier. So this has been your homestead, and you've been farming there since 2005?
I've been, we bought in 71 down the road a ways, and in pick a number, maybe 75, we bought property along Interstate 10, and we bought this property, I don't have the exact date, 19 or 2020 maybe.
Okay.
No, I mean, I'm sorry, no, 2010. I mean, we've been there for, I've been building that house for 7 years. It's not finished yet. I anticipate 1 January of switching my residence there. My homestead is still down at 2012 Bolton Road.
Okay.
We do have someone here that wrote in, I guess that was opposed, that said, agricultural is temporary zoning or ideally suited. This property is already grandfathered in. Why change? It is surrounded by commercial, and this muddying the waters even more for this area. So that is where some of my mind is going.
But see, it's not, ma'am, it's not completely surrounded by commercial, because on the west side of it is where the ground I farm.
So even the properties that you don't own, you still farm on
Yes,
those
ma'am, we have
properties?
quite a few. We've at least 350 acres, all in that neighborhood right there, and further down Bolton Road.
So then how could they be commercial?
It was zoned commercially. It has the taxation of ag, it has the use of ag, but in the zoning map, it's just overlaid with the commercial zoning. So if I understood you correctly, and to coin a very old phrase, there's another fine mess we've gotten ourselves into, Wally.
I'm sorry. We should have corrected. Oh, well,
Yeah,
no comment.
But the reason that we're even here right now is because you had a 1 acre, basically a 1 acre tract and a 1 acre tract. You combined them into a 2 acre tract, but part of one 1 acre tract was in the city, the other
Correct.
is
It was
not.
part of that
Now it's a 2 acre tract that's partially in the city, and so you need to rezone the entirety of the 2 acres.
See, I farm that purple area. The little diagonal part out is where the old house is and where I have some equipment parked and all that. That peninsula that goes up and all the way down towards the red there, that's all. I cut hay off of that for 5 or 6 years now. Yeah. And plan to continue doing that if I don't get too much cement dust on it.
I think what he said was that it all became city when he combined them.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Just that
Correct.
purple. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Correct.
Just
But
making sure I
because of the
understood.
combination, now where he's having to deal with the 2 acre tract within the city. And so
Yeah,
the
the
zoning
taxes are
doesn't have an
nominal.
effect on anything other than what we call it. That's all it is what we refer to it as. We're going to refer to it as ag, or we're going to refer to it as a zoo or parkland or whatever whatever the zoning heading we put on that. But you use it, that's homestead, so it's not going to be agriculturally taxed. It's taxed as homestead. So I
Actually, that piece will not be my homestead because the white dot you see at the corner of the purple is where my house is being built, right there. And
Right.
I have another house that's right in line with the eastern boundary of that vertical green area, which is where my.
But this is not an effort to save on tax dollars or any of that. It's
Actually,
just
my taxes are going to go up because I lose the homestead on the place down at 2012, and when they come here, then my taxes will probably go up.
it'd be residential,
but not on the purple piece. See, just on the other house where I live. The taxes aren't going to change because, like you commented on agriculture, I already have ag based on there.
Yeah. So all it is, what do we call it in the zoning map?
Yep.
So I'm good with your request.
That looks like all farmland.
That's Mr. Schaefer's. And
Is
he
that
has-
zoned? What is that zoned as? That's the ETJ. Oh yeah, that's what you're saying. So even across on the other side of Bolton Road, any of
No,
those are
that's-
also ETJ? I don't understand sometimes how we
all
have one
farm.
section surrounded.
Those are 70-acre and 100-acre farms. As the grandparents pass, they may get sold, but right now not.
No, I'm laughing at her.
No, no, not you. Yes.
I appreciate your time here today, and I understand, and
Yes,
I
thank
feel like
you.
you're probably feeling frustrated. So thank you for dealing with us.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
I want to just defer to city for that, but at the same
have
time,
to give a
yeah, I get it.
I want to go ahead and make a recommendation.
One second. We have do you ladies have questions down there?
To
Miss
watch how much
Dodd
conversation you're having off the mic because
Oh, okay. Before we take a motion, do you guys have questions? So once we take a motion, we have to continue.
have questions.
I think
Because on here, on the bottom, it says the applicant originally requested this annexation, and the council offered for the applicant to rezone their property to ag homestead instead.
Mm-hmm.
But on our... Hold on, I'm lost.
I think your mic is off.
It was probably best. If council offered to rezone to agricultural ag, is that what you're trying to do now?
Yeah, that's what he's trying to do.
Correct.
So we're just having discussion to see if we want to approve or deny what council already recommended.
Because it changes. I mean, we've got commercial right up there
If
that's
you look
really being
around,
used
there's
as
no
commercial.
ag.
Yeah, it's
It's all C4, MH1, or commercial.
But
Or,
he
sorry, I
said all he's doing is ag.
Correct. Yes, he's wanting to rezone to his current use. to the property's current use is what his request is.
Uh-huh.
So, but we're discussing it because from a planning perspective, that could lead us towards spot zoning because there's no other ag around.
So,
inside city limits.
The property directly north, it's the red and blue. That is, used residentially and agriculturally.
Well,
it's zoned commercial, but it is
correct. I'm talking about zoning, just
the
zoning,
use,
not
the
use.
use does match.
Yes, the use does match.
The use matches. That I don't think that's the discussion. I think we understand that. And we're glad to know that because I wasn't sure either. I've been out there a few times, but I didn't make it out there, yesterday. But I think the question is like Ashley's saying, like, we have all of this commercial and then you've got this little slip of MH1 that I don't even know how it got there or why, but that was a huge issue with the concrete plant, right? Because those homeowners got put up against the concrete.
Right.
And I know there's stuff happening with that. But I mean, it is a mess. And that's why I'm reading this comment saying it's muddying the mirror even more. And I'm like, it is to me. It's muddying a lot of things. But at the same time, I guess if council is saying that's what they want to do, then I mean, we're supposed to support council mostly.
They're wanting to put it back. Was it originally ag?
No, it was taken.
It was never ag. It was annexed in, right? So it was just
commercial.
Yeah. It was
Or when it was taken over by the city, but before that, when it was in the county,
They just
It wouldn't
do
have
use.
zoning.
Yeah, it doesn't have a zoning. It just has a use.
used as ag because you said you've been farming there for.
Yeah, there's no zoning for county.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, I'm
Okay.
thoughts sufficed.
yes, ma'am.
We're ready for you.
I'm going to recommend approval to the city council for the rezoning of 2.227 acres located at 12090 IH10 West from the current zoning of general commercial C4 district to agricultural homestead AG.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'm gonna. Whoa,
Oh.
I'm gonna say nay, not because I don't
sorry, I thought you
agree.
said aye.
No, I hadn't.
Oh,
so
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. No, you're okay. I'm only saying nay because I like to err on the side of caution, and I still don't fully understand why, what, when, where, and all of this. And the spot zoning comes to mind from training and all these things. So I'm not saying nay because I don't think you deserve to be disannexed or ag. I'm just saying it for record because I'd rather be safe than sorry. If I'm not sure how to move forward on something, then it's not to move forward.
It's difficult, yeah.
So that's just so you know, sir.
So we do have one nay.
And just for the record, just to discuss spot zoning, it also goes along with uses. So if you have uses compatible with the proposed zoning, it would not be considered spot zoning because it's compatible to the surrounding uses. It's not just a matter of color on a map.
Right, and all that area is being used as
It's
farming
agricultural, so
according
it's
to-
compatible.
Right.
It's like if you were to, in the middle of a large single-family residential development, you allowed one lot to
BMH.
zone commercial to have a convenience store. That would be spot zoning.
You just slapped a manufactured home residential use right in the middle of a commercial industrial, and you just put it in the middle of it. You just stuck something, a
it's single-
use that wasn't surrounded by uses. So
Talking about that MH1?
yeah, I'm talking about that MH1.
I'm not sure when that MH1 happened. What I'm talking about is his application. It would
Yeah,
not
but that's
be
what I'm
spot
saying. I just
zoning.
don't want to. I want discussions to happen at the council level, and I want them to handle this one.
I've also had discussions about this item outside of this meeting with some council members, and I feel like there also needs to be further conversation because I believe the discussion and the reason why they asked him to rezone happened in executive session, and so we're not privy to that information. And so I just feel like the real reason has to be kind of taken. Is this accomplishing what the idea was? So agreed. I would prefer for council to really think about this one before they make a decision, which they do on all of them anyway.
And I don't want to keep hearing all the time that we annex people in and then we're not following through on our side. That's not fair to so many people for so many reasons. So, I don't know. Yeah. And I know there's more detail to that because I'm not on that side of the line. I get that. It's not just like maybe waving a magic wand and you have water and sewer. I get there's like massive stuff that happens behind that. But I'm saying it's been 13 years. Yes. So you're telling me in 13 years we haven't made a move to get him some sewer, but we want him to pay for the sewer? It just baffles me. Anyways.
Yeah. Completely agree. Okay, the next item on our agenda is item number 8H. Discussion, action, and recommendation to the City Council regarding a proposed amendment to Article 4 Zoning Regulations, Section 4.7.4.3 Mixed-Use Regional Employment Center Muir District Regulations of the City's Unified Development Code, UDC, to allow vehicle towing facility and vehicle storage in Muir zoning districts.
Good evening again, Commissioners. I think we spoke a bit high level for the public hearing, so I'm just going to go over the key points. If obviously we want to speak more high level, just let me know. But yes, this was directed by council for us to proceed with an ordinance to allow vehicle towing facilities and vehicle storage by right in the Muir zoning district. Specifically within this proposed ordinance, we're going to update section 4.7.4.3.E.2, which is the permitted uses subject to supplemental use requirements, as well as section 6.3, where it gets into those supplemental use requirements, specifically that the owner and operator of that vehicle storage lot in the Muir district must maintain a permit issued by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. The lot must be located no closer than 500 feet from any interstate highway. The fencing on that property must be at least 8 feet in height for screening, and so that the storage of vehicles are not visible from the public right of way, and that there's no storage of hazardous materials allowed on site. In addition to that, there weren't any definitions that specifically defined incident management towing currently in the UDC. So a definition of incident management towing is within your packets in that proposed ordinance. Again, this ordinance, as proposed, will tentatively go to City Council for public hearing at its December 12th meeting. If you have any questions, myself and staff are available.
Thank you. I will open the floor to discussion by any of the commissioners. I know that Jen had something to say in just a second when she gets back. So I know we discussed this in great detail our last meeting. Appreciate how fast you guys got this out. It seems like it's fast, at least. And I don't think I have any issues with the language. I do think it's really great that Ms. Latimer came forward and said that there was a different way of accomplishing this, which I thought was really, I didn't think of it. I mean, sometimes it just takes somebody outside the box thinking. But I do feel like this still accomplishes what the task at hand is. So I don't feel like there's a reason to recommend denial for it from my perspective. Does anybody else have any comments?
No, I agree with you.
I was just stating that I thought that it was nice to hear that there was another way to accomplish what we were trying to do with this one. Yes, the uses table. Yeah, you wrote down, I just mentioned that it was nice.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, that.
Yeah. If you don't mind, just one comment, and I'll just let you have the floor. Because I did bring up the screening portion. But there is the issue of he's storing temporarily other people's private property, and so there's a concern about being able to patrol it properly, and so maybe there needs to be some discussion, before this is truly finalized, about a percentage of screening, 75%, something to that point.
Did you say control or patrol?
Patrol.
Okay,
patrol.
sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah. So our officers will go out there and make regular patrol, and they need some visibility. You want to screen from the neighbors, but you want it to be helpful as well.
Right. Yeah. And if I remember correctly from our last meeting where we had the gentleman step forward basically as our subject matter expert, he had mentioned that he works with the local police facilities and that they do patrolling. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he had mentioned, because this is a use that is regulated by TDLR, that in addition to what we're proposing, TDLR has their own screening requirements as well that they must follow. So screening, lighting, those other things are also requirements by TDLR.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm just trying to, that idea never popped into my head about amending the uses table. So I don't know if I have enough time to think on it now because it's like a different perspective.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, but I don't think that what we're doing is necessarily wrong. And I know that she warned that we might kick ourselves later. I don't know
Yeah,
if
I'm
that's
not-
about this one or another one.
No, I'm not worried about that. I was just like,
but-
oh, that's actually a decent idea.
It is a good idea, but I feel like what's proposed, what we've discussed and what's been put in front of us and is proposed isn't gonna hurt. Do you know what I mean? I know her concern was that it was only for M-U-R-E district. I can't say it.
Yeah, if it's written where I think our overall concerns are addressed, and I guess that's the main point, right?
I think.
So.
Could we look at that also?
What?
I mean, I know that it would be like doing it twice, amending the uses table so that it would apply to other areas or other zonings other than your.
Is it easier or better or staff? Do you have any recommendations or any insight on why it wasn't proposed maybe to amend a uses table versus going straight to amending the Muir district requirements? Like,
Yeah, I think within our current UDC, we actually don't have the Muir district listed in the permitted uses table, which is one of the things that we're going to look at whenever we're doing our full-blown UDC amendments come next year. So we will be updating that for this specific request. I know that this property owner, or at least future property owner, he wasn't at the time, I believe, he said that he was going to purchase a property that is in the Muir district, and he had brought that to council. So I think that in and of itself made sense. And within the Muir district, it's supposed to be properties that are along interstate highways, so it can handle that type of a use. That's why only right now we're only looking at the Muir district.
I would suggest that, I know you probably have some long list of things we need to change in the UDC when we have an update. I know you guys have an ongoing list. Just jot that down to both add Muir to this uses table, but also to discuss just making sure that this is an approved use.
For sure.
For appropriate zoning. That covers both zones.
A concern that pops up about that is wherever there is C4, this would be allowed. And if you only have it in Muirs, then we're having even a tighter control of that. It's only in Muirs that we would allow this type of business.
Yeah, I think she suggested industrial also. And that to me makes sense. So industrial and Muir maybe, that you could put it in the uses table that it would be for both of those, but there might be some others, but I understand your hesitation there to make it for all C4. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, she said by right use in C4 or industrial.
I don't know if I agree with the C4 like Mr. Hines said, because I feel like there's too many C4 that we might not want this type of development of a property in a C4.
Next to other.
Look at it. I mean, when the UDC update comes up, I think that's a good discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions, or do we have a motion?
fastest, quickest way to say it. Okay, so I'm going to recommend approval of the amendments to the vehicle storage and management towing ordinances as were displayed and explained by staff.
Okay, we have a motion.
So as written, basically,
There you go.
you want to approve 8. What are we? 8. Recommend approval for 8F as written. Yeah.
What you said.
Perfect. Okay.
I want to get better at that.
Gotcha. I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Aaron.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item on our agenda is item 8G, discussion, action, and recommendation to the City Council regarding a proposed amendment to Article 17, Landscape Regulations, Section 17.1.J.3.B, to reduce the 15-foot landscape buffer requirement in the Old Town District when an off-street parking or vehicular use area abuts a public right-of-way.
Yeah, so I guess I'm probably going to do this for all of them. Just go at it with the key points here. Yeah, so at City Council on their October 24th meeting, they directed staff to proceed with an ordinance to reduce the landscape buffer distance requirement for commercial properties in the Old Town District. With this proposed ordinance, it will amend UDC section UDC Article 17.1.J.3.B, and that would reduce the required minimum 15-foot landscape area to at least 5 feet in depth. And this is specifically within the Old Town Mixed Use District, so it would only apply to those areas. The existing minimum 15-foot landscape area requirement will stay the same for all other properties within the city. So the next steps for this is that it will go to final public hearing for City Council at their December 12th meeting. Again, I am available for any questions as well as the rest of staff.
I was wondering, but I didn't get to ask you guys ahead of time, how many properties actually have 15 foot? I don't think it's very many. So I know that when we discussed, maybe it was a long time ago, Jen, you might remember this. We discussed the parking requirements, I believe it was, and they had the different maps of different properties or businesses in downtown and how the requirement couldn't be met on almost all of them. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think Mr. Reed put out a presentation or something.
Really
there was some nice pictures right there that I don't think anybody here, maybe Mr. Hines would have been at. Maybe. But I think it was a joint meeting. I feel like it was a joint meeting. But yeah, there was the nice papers, and you could see where they had the Allstate building, and you could see where what we require for the buffers, what it looks like, where the buffer was covering over, and you're like, well, that's not there, or maybe Allstate was the one that had it, but you know what I mean? It mapped out downtown, and you're like,
it showed an aerial with the property highlighted, and then the requirement was on there in a rectangle or whatever the requirement for the it was parking, I believe. And so it kind of gave you a good depiction of how many properties and businesses downtown cannot comply with this. I mean, you're not going to knock a building down to put in parking because it just doesn't make sense. So I think that would be helpful if you guys could put that together for council. I know you have a little bit more time to do that for council, and I apologize for not asking for it in advance. I didn't really think about it. I am very familiar with the downtown area, and I know that most of these properties can't meet this requirement, and by passing this amendment, or by recommending approval of the amendment, it will reduce future variance requests. So that's less work for this commission, so I appreciate that. Does anybody have any comments or questions on this item?
my concern is just always for public safety and the houses in between these commercial uses, you know, that are getting their buffer reduced, and now they're going to have headlights or noise or so I understand that most of them can't actually comply with what's happening, and we've let that slide for so long, but...
To confirm, this is the 15 foot in the front, just along the right-of-way?
Well, it said parking parking of cars.
It says
off-street
when an
parking,
off-street parking or vehicular use abuts a public right of way.
Yeah, you still have.
So maybe
it's
I
still-
misunderstood.
No. Oh.
Can we take
What?
some comment? Yes.
Yeah.
Come, we would love your.
Mr. Patrick, I can't remember
I
last
believe
name.
you applied for this variance.
I did apply for the variance. I was reading the tea leaves. I didn't think it was going to go through. There was a lot of councilmen who are just opposed to passing variances right now. I invited them out to the property. They looked at it. They said, "This is crazy. You can't do anything with this." I was like, "Yes, that's why I need a variance." And so they said, "Well, let's try this." And so that's where this came from, is they came out, saw the issues I was having, and rather than approving a variance, they would like to do it this way, so that, because I'm not the only one that's going to have this problem. Everyone down here is going to have the same issue. The city developed this so that it could become something, and especially on my side of Main Street, there's no parking. Like if you're on this side, there's public parking, but on my side, if I don't have parking, they're going to be parking in the subdivision. That's going to be problems. They're going to be parking in the bowling alley. I need to have enough parking so that I can function and not interfere with everybody else.
Yeah. Thank you.
Also, to clarify, the landscape buffer would only apply to situations such as Mr. Jackson's case, where the parking is facing the public right of way. So, regular buffer standards would still apply if the property was abutting a residential.
Okay,
So they
that's,
would
I
still
think, what
require
Jen
that
is saying.
15 foot, or I think it's actually 20 foot.
Yeah.
But when it comes to them actually, the parking lots actually facing the right of ways, it would be reduced to 5.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I thought it was, but I wanted to make sure I was clear. That's what your question was, right?
Yeah, I'm
okay.
just trying to
make sure
I clearly understand.
And yeah,
I go slapping off 10 feet, cutting.
yeah, and that we don't put any residents that are in the downtown area still, because like many have pointed out, that's some of the last little bit of affordable housing that's available. I don't want to put any of them in a bind or any issues. I don't have any issue with this. Does anybody have any questions? Ms. Fishbeck, you look like you're ready to make a motion.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. I was going to do it if you were,
I know,
but you
that's
look
what-
like you were ready.
I'm ready, thank you. I make a motion to approve the proposed amendment as written for item 8G. Is that good?
Yes, that's
Okay.
great. We have a motion. I second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, sir. Item 8H, sorry. Discussion, action, and recommendation to City Council regarding a proposed amendment to Appendix A of the Unified Development Code, Article 20, Subdivision Regulations, to amend certain requirements for final acceptance of public improvements.
Yes, this was previously discussed. Mainly what's going to be done is an amendment to this section, which is 20.3.11.B.2.B.I. In regards to the final acceptance requirements, we're just going to increase the percentage of buildable lots required for final acceptance from 75, which is currently in the UDC, to 90%.
Yeah, I'm good on that. I don't have any questions or comments, concerns.
Same here. I don't know why it was not at 90 or 100. So.
Is this usual and customary? Which is I'm sorry. What were you talking? Okay. Which is usual and customary? 75, 90? Is it just pick and choose? Can we go from Converse and be at 60% and be at Seguin and be at 95%?
Yeah, if I'm not wrong, please correct me, staff. But yeah, this can vary based off of the community in which you're in. I don't think there's a set standard. I would want to say it's probably higher. 75% might be the average. I don't know.
Well, the closest comparison I have is where I worked previously. And actually there they didn't even have this percentages, and it didn't even go to council. But what it had was ongoing inspections. So everyone does it different. So there was no percentage, and this was Bulverde. There was no percentage. They would schedule inspections depending on the type of work that was being done. And so they'd have to call in inspections and it would get approved. And then when it was all finished,
100%.
100%, an engineer would go out and follow a list of what needed to get accepted, and then the engineer would sign off on it. And it didn't require any council action. It was just.
I can tell you from New Braunfels, it's pretty much the same. With a little variation, it's 100%.
Yeah.
I honestly was surprised that we were at 75 in the first place. You were at a different municipality before. Do you know what their percentage was, or did they have such a requirement? Because New Braunfels doesn't. It's 100% complete.
Yeah, I was in Alamo Heights briefly before here, but yeah, this isn't mentioned either. So
it's final acceptance is final acceptance.
Right.
So.
What's considered developed? Is that just the lot is prepared ready to build on, or is it as it's built? The home is built on that. What
as built along with the improvements.
The public improvements, not the home.
Right.
The water, sewer, electric, all those things have to be completed.
Only pertaining to utilities.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Well, drainage and roads too, because the city oversees those.
Correct.
I think that's it.
Yeah, all public infrastructure.
There you go.
Down on this end, no, we're good?
Okay.
All right.
I move to recommend to City Council the proposed amendment as written on item 8H.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 8I, discussion, action, and recommendation to City Council regarding a proposed amendment to Article 13, Use Tables, Section 13.1, Residential Uses of the City's Unified Development Code, UDC, to remove the allowance of a conditional use permit CUP for a manufactured home from the SF2 single-family residential zoning district.
Yes, this went before City Council on their October 24th meeting, and they directed staff to proceed with an ordinance to remove the requirement for a CUP for a manufactured home from the SF2 single-family zoning district. Just to reiterate, manufactured homes, they're factory-built homes, and they're basically complying only by the federal building codes, which is dictated by HUD. Just to reiterate that, within the city limits, there are only 2 zoning districts that permit manufactured homes by right, which is MH1 and MH2. 3 zoning districts currently, they're allowed with a CUP. So this is SF1, SF2, and ag. What this ordinance does is it's removing those 3 that are allowed by a CUP to just SF2 and ag, or SF1 and ag. SF2 would no longer be an option for an applicant to request a CUP for a manufactured home. And there is that, I would probably refer y'all to that chart that we have, just so you can have a look at what the differences are between each of the different districts that either permit manufactured homes by right and those that permit it with a CUP, just to kind of have a little more clarity. As with the other ordinances that are being proposed tonight, this one will go to City Council tentatively for a final public hearing on December 12th. Again, myself and staff are available for questions and comments.
Thank you, Aaron. I will open the floor to discussion, and I do have some questions, but I'm going to let somebody else go first. I feel like I always go first.
So I have some questions. So this is removing the cup requirement from SF2, but I heard one of the couples say that they only had a quarter of an acre. They don't fit that. They're not in that SF2 requirement. So are they still falling under this, or does the city have a plan to redesignate, right, rezone those areas so that they stay manufactured homes 1 or 2? Because not everybody has 2 units per acre, so they obviously had only a quarter of an acre. So
Right.
how would that apply to those families who don't have the SF2 designation?
That's a good question.
Okay, yes, just to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, what is currently there, if it's a manufactured home, can stay there as long as they don't abandon that use. Any new manufactured homes that are being proposed would need to follow, they would not be allowed on SF2. So they would need to fall under MH1, MH2 to be permitted by right.
Right, and I understood that from the explanation earlier. But
Uh-huh.
again, this one couple specifically said they only have a quarter of an acre. They don't even fall under an SF2 designation.
Gotcha.
So how would this apply to them then? Why wouldn't they be grandfathered so that if something happened to that home or they wanted to upgrade it, that they would be able to do that? Instead of now they have to get their property rezoned somehow because they're in this area where this SF2 is taking place in order to remove this cup designation, but they don't have half an acre. They have a
Right.
quarter of an
I
acre.
see.
And what if there are, so this I think was Country Lane
Yes,
Road
Country
was
Lane.
the,
Yep.
so is Country Lane going to be exempt from this cup?
Oh, it's all over the city. I would assume south of 78. There's a lot of them.
Right, but so are they going to be grandfathered so that if something did happen to their current home or they
That's a good question.
or they wanted to upgrade, would they be able to without then having to come back and say, okay, we need to rezone to MF1 or we need to rezone or we need a variance because we unfortunately fall where this cup was removed? And I understand why we're removing it, and I agree with that, but at the same time, those folks who don't have the two, the half an acre, what is going to happen to them?
Gotcha. Yeah, and I understand that. Now, I feel as though we have gotten those concerns. We also got a concern that brought up to us earlier today because we've been getting comments as early as us getting here with the whole non-conforming grandfathered use. Maybe that's something that y'all could put in as a condition because currently right now the ordinance doesn't speak to it.
We could make a recommendation to council that an effort be made to property owners like this couple on Country Lane, for instance, that if they're currently zoned as SF2, but their use is an MH, that they could rezone from SF2 to MH with no cost to themselves. Or something of that. I mean, we could make a recommendation.
Yeah, y'all
I mean,
can
they
make a
don't have to
recommendation. Exactly.
Because I don't want, like he said, if my house could get knocked over by a tornado, it could get burnt down, and I don't want him to be stuck. And I know that he has options available to him, that he can come and rezone, he can go to the Board of Adjustments, things like that. But those are all the things that they take time, and they probably add, they would add a significant amount of stress
Right.
on top of an already emergent situation. And so I would really like to have some sort of safeguard there for people like that. And this gentleman that stayed with us most of the night, he brought up his people that live on properties and they want to upgrade. Like, if they're not going to be able to do that, I don't want to put an amendment or to recommend an amendment that's going to get property owners stuck in a situation where they are stuck in that home and all they can do is sell it as is. If it's falling apart around them or whatever, they have to sell it as is. They can't upgrade their home, even if they had the money or any of the things that we've heard tonight. So I think, could we do a recommendation could we recommend council look into something like that along with when they review this amendment?
Yeah.
Can the language be changed still?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know
So
how
this
that would
is
be
just
added.
a proposed. Yeah, this is just a draft, a proposed amendment.
Yeah, so we're not 100% on board with this draft for these particular reasons
Yeah.
that
Right.
got brought up.
I
And
have a few more
this is, I think, overcorrection or maybe correction to a current situation that is happening.
Yeah.
So this whole taking SF2, or I'm sorry, taking manufactured homes out of SF2 and cupping and all that, isn't, I think there was a home, I don't know where my note is. There was a homeowner that says that they feel like they're being attacked because, they're not as financially whatever. I don't think that's what it is at all. I think it's an overcorrection to an issue because we're in a lawsuit right now. There's issues that come with safety of manufactured homes and standards. Like you said, manufactured homes are federally stamped. They don't have to fit the requirements. So some of the issues that we have with the manufactured homes is their fire suppression. If I can't get to you for fire suppression, well, now you've stuck a manufactured home that's going to go up poof in flames next to all these homes. So I see why they try to put them on acreage, and they're kind of by themselves because they're not fitting the requirements that keep everybody safe. So I'm not okay with how it's written, and I would like to see some safety nets put in for the people that already have a manufactured home. And I don't know how to do that yet, but I'm not okay with what's here.
I would like some sort of option for.
We know how lightning is around here. I
I
want to see how lightning and poof, this person's house is gone and they can't put a new one.
Their current use is an MH1, but they, when we painted the whole city SF2, that they got put in an SF2, but like the people on Country Lane and my in-law, all types of people. I talked to a councilman or council person earlier today, and they said that they were discussing a property that is a SF2, but it's not it's like 1.9 or something like that, and that causes issues because of all kinds of things, because of septic tanks, and the county won't give you a septic tank permit unless you're on an acre. I mean, so many issues. So I would like some sort of language changes to take into account. But also I had a couple questions that might also lead to some language changes. We had a property owner talk about that the cups can allow for any and all regulations to be not removed, but waived. I know that we had a manufactured home that they received a cup, and they didn't have the fire protection necessary and things like that. But because they received a cup, I'm assuming that means that they didn't necessarily have to meet that regulation. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I understand the reasoning why we're looking at this, because the cups, I guess, put us in a bad situation, and we have seen so many applications for them across this commission. Some other things that I made notes of, there was a comment about a constitutional right to allow manufactured homes on ag for a family member. So my concern is that we have it, that it's required that you have to have a cup for it, even if it's one of your family members. So how does that work with if it's a constitutional right that you can do it? So not that I'm expecting an answer today, unless you have one, but I just want to kind of pose that question. I think that it will come up at council, because I'm pretty sure that person will come and talk to council that day too.
If I understood what she was saying, it was not that they have the constitutional right to place a manufactured home. It was they have the constitutional right to subdivide their own property.
Correct.
And
Up to 4 times.
Okay. Up to 4 times. So
And
they
that's-
can divide up their property, but
Okay.
it's not necessarily
My
that they have
note
the
is
right
not
to.
all inclusive. Okay, thank you for
Yeah.
clearing that up.
And that's why she was just suggesting to just do away with the cup, because city council is already making these regulations or whatever for legacy landowners.
Yes. Yeah.
So that way it doesn't matter if it's an SF2 or whatever it is. They're
MH,
legacy
yeah.
landowners, period.
Okay. The language was very unclear. We had multiple people say that, so I would like to see it kind of cleaned up to be a little bit more layman's. That, if somebody owns a piece of property, or they're looking to purchase a piece of property, if they, look up manufactured home in our UDC, they're going to be able to understand what they're looking at. I mean, we're not trying to confuse anybody or get anybody into any situations. And also, I guess I should have more organized better, but straight zoning, I understand, is what we're looking at doing with this amendment. And it's my understanding, talking to council and to Ms. Latimer's brought it up today again, that straight zoning protects the property owners. So I don't know if anybody can expand upon that.
She said straight zoning is the only way that you get the assurance that they get the assurance to do what they want to do with the land.
With their own
as
land.
legacy landowners.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I wrote that down, and I try to take as many notes as possible, but it doesn't always, it's not clear. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Any other recommendations we can give to Aaron to discuss with council or anything like that?
Just a comment or two.
Yes, sir.
We're not ready for this. This is fire set ready, not ready set fire. And so there has to be a greater review and revision of the zoning map as it sits now. We have issues with the zoning as we see the map right now, and that's because someone was trying to see the future back in 2010 when this was done. So now we're seeing different issues than what was proposed then. So whatever happened then happened. We need to make a complete adjustment for land use, for the proper zoning of everything we have before we make any kind of issue, come across with an issue like this that totally restricts someone from being able to buy a home, all the home that they can buy on their property. I own 1.9 acres, and I worked for 30 years to pay for that, and now I can put a newer home on that 1.9 acres. This is all I can buy. This is going to be a great home for my family. And it could be a legacy, like someone's lived in a mobile home for 30, 40 years. I grew up in a mobile home. So I think this is fire, set, ready. We're not ready for this, and we need to just not even address this yet. It needs to be addressed in a totally different manner.
Yeah, I think that the way that it's written under I for discussion, action, and recommendation, I don't see the word draft in here, but I do love that you guys have draft stamped on here. So I think there could have been a little bit better clarification, because I think it would give us, I don't want to approve a draft, it's a draft. So I think we could have written I a little bit differently so that we could have this discussion and then say these are some of the concerns. You can go back to the draft and then move forward. I don't know all these people that wrote in, which we were like, oh my gosh, there's like 45 people. You never see that, right? Opposed, not opposed, it's kind of split. I think that some of the people watching at home and some people go to the meeting are going to think we're making this final decision tonight and that city council's making the final decision, but we're still in draft phase according to this stamp. So I don't know how to go forward, because it's an agenda item, right, Miss Peggy? And it says discussion, action, and recommendation. So would we just deny the draft?
No, we could recommend that more work needs to be done. We can recommend that, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be recommend approval, recommend denial, right?
We could just deny this.
Yeah.
And
We could do that
start all
too.
over.
Yeah, y'all can make a motion to approve with the condition that, you know, certain things are changed.
The language for that is my issue. It's in a draft form.
Yeah, the language is, draft form for all of the ordinances that were just presented to you. So these are all drafts. They will get, as approved by y'all, they will get the same draft that y'all are seeing, city council will. So majority of this language, if y'all are okay with it, won't change. It's just the little subtleties that we have to get ironed out that y'all want to present to council.
Right, but we did approve some of the other draft amendments because we did agree that those were okay the way they were written. But this one specifically, I don't want to partially approve something. I would like the opportunity to review
Gotcha.
the revised language, because we want to make sure that all of our concerns all the folks that were here, that their concerns are really addressed, and that it serves the purpose for our citizens and for our city, right? We need to make sure of that. And I don't want to say, oh yeah, let's partially approve it, and then you all rewrite it, and then it's approved, and we never got a chance to re-review.
I agree.
I will mention that this is going to council. This is already set to go to council. So whatever we decide here, even if we decide to tell them this needs more work, it's still going to council.
We won't see it again.
They don't have to take our, so I would suggest that we try to kind of blurt out any ideas and changes that we would like to see, so that when it does go to council, they have that. Because if we just say denial, then we're not able to send on that information. I want to try to be productive.
Staff will pass on the
Can-
information, and we just did. But if we deny it, then it takes a supermajority from council to overrule this denial.
I don't think
this.
that's
This
only
isn't
for
zoning. Yeah.
That's only for zoning.
All right.
Yeah.
But
So,
no, we're just not ready.
I feel like, when I first started on this, there was more discussion. Like this, I feel like shouldn't have had the word action, is I guess my
We had
final
one.
thought.
I think that was one of the ones you had.
Oh,
to
was it
leave
at the
for.
end? Okay.
And I would like to say that I know that staff this is the second time our commission's seeing this, but when we asked questions, when we had our discussion on this item, the information that was provided to us didn't match when I talked to council. It didn't match what their intent was. So therefore, the discussions that we had based off of the information that we were given by staff, because we didn't have a draft or anything to look at, it didn't match what council's intent is here. And so I think that what you have here is a good start, but I don't think that it takes everything into consideration, because I know that we've already seen this once. We've already had this discussion once, and I know you're all thinking that. You've already seen it once. But we really want to do our due diligence, and we really want to protect the property owners, all of them. Both people that have SF2s and people that are already in an MH, or a manufactured home. Yeah, I mean MH use, but zoned differently.
So what would staff recommend right now so we can move on with this item to make it work?
You can ask to table it. However, it was noticed for council for a public hearing, so it will still go forward as a public hearing for council.
But
and
they
then
won't vote?
No, they won't vote.
They can't because we
They
haven't
do it at
recommended.
separate meetings. So
on some items, don't they move ahead without our recommendation?
No, they have to.
No.
We can't. If it's tabled, we have to do an action, an item. Like you can't. We table it.
yes,
Okay.
it has to go forward with either positive or negative recommendation, or you can recommend with, we would like to see these revisions incorporated.
So if
also.
we table this, do we get to have revisions and drafts brought back to us, or are we just tabling literally this draft?
No, I think we can table
You-
with.
You
with
can
a request
table
to
with a
staff
request
for
of-
some changes.
yes.
Some updated language, some more protective clauses for those already
In a
with an
manufactured
MH use, but living in SF2
or an
zoning.
action plan that if
Yeah.
if this is proposed, if this is moved forward, that anybody that's in a manufactured home use currently can rezone into a MH use, MH zoning at no cost to themselves. Some sort of plan, not just this is what we're doing. You're grandfathered, but
Not if
hopefully
the
your
one
house
you're,
doesn't ever
yeah,
burn down,
yeah.
you know?
So is that where you guys are supposed to be taking some notes on?
Yeah.
Like I feel like usually Kelsey's over there taking notes on this.
I
Because-
saw Aaron taking notes.
You're
as
taking
you were
notes down.
saying.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I saw
Making sure
Aaron
somebody's taking notes on that side because we're just blurting it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
For you guys to take any type of, if it's the action or direction, and that's what I'll put in the minutes.
Okay, I will move to table this item with the direction that we've already given to staff for some changes to the language and reference back at all the discussion we had. That's my motion.
Yeah.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye. I motioned. Miss Hubbard second, and I think we all said aye. Any opposed?
I oppose it. I just don't think we need to even go forward with this until you have a greater discussion about all of the zoning. So I just think we're kind of getting really muddy by trying to give direction to how to handle this one little bitty particular piece. I don't think we even need to
I
consider this.
understand.
Yeah,
We have
that
one day.
correction to the overcorrection is what I'm
I
seeing.
feel like it's such a big issue, though, that maybe kind of splicing in the corrections might
It's a piece
be.
of the greater plan,
Yeah.
but we're going to really make an issue. We're going to really screw up the greater plan by trying to piecemeal this. I just don't think we're ready for it. Five requests for manufactured homes on, for cups for manufactured homes on property this year. That's I can appreciate, an alert going up, but that's not an overabundance of people making a request. And I really do think that this is just going to keep people from the opportunity to have a home.
A what? Home. Okay. I'm hard of hearing, so sometimes I can't catch words. Thank you. Item number 9, UDC CIP master plan and staff updates. But before we get on that item, it is now 9:56. We've made all the actions for today other than, adjournment in a little while. Are we still okay to move ahead, Miss Peggy? Okay. Just wanted to make sure. So item number 9, UDC CIP master plan and staff updates. Who's providing that for us today?
All right. So you have just the site plans that are currently under review, which include Whataburger, 504 File Road, Equipment Share. Recently approved include Bentwood Oaks Professional Center, 508 Main, QT 4050. Plots that are currently under review include, Barcelo Estates was on your agenda, as was Steel Creek Unit 4A, Cibolo Farms Unit 1. The next two were administrative plats, which were FM 78 in Maine and Cibolo Crossing Phase 3 Commercial. Updates to recent recommendations by the board. The 403 Tolly Road manufactured home conditional use permit was denied at council last night, and council directed staff to process a zone change to MH1 for them instead. The Mesa at Turning Stone C7 Lot 4 replat was approved last night. Buffalo Crossing 2 Knights Crossing final plat was reconsidered and once again denied. Buffalo Crossing Unit 2, Unit 6 final plat was approved on October 24th. Omni Industrial Park preliminary plat was conditionally approved. All they were lacking was final approval of their TIA, and that was pending TxDOT approval, which apparently is taking months. They're really far behind on their approvals. So with the condition that it be approved before final plat approval. And the 304 South Main right-of-way variance was approved last night also. Just as a reminder, the city engineer will come to present at the December P&Z Commission meeting. He'll talk about drainage and CLOMARs and LOMARs, and we'll ask him the question about the floodplains and
The
floodplain
flume map.
maps and how often that they are updated.
Yeah, FEMA. I said flume. I meant FEMA.
Mhm.
Question for you on the MH1 rezoning. Will we see that request come through? Is it going to start from scratch, basically?
Yes, we have to send out notices,
Okay.
so it'll go. You'll see it next month. Yes, you'll see it next month.
Next month, December.
Yes.
And that's the month that we meet on a different day than normal? Okay.
No.
Okay, never mind.
We met differently this month.
Was it this
Yeah,
month?
it's this month.
Okay.
It was this month. That
Okay,
was,
I knew it was around a holiday, but Kelsey talked to me about it like 6 months ago, so I can't remember.
Yeah, it was Veterans Day because the 10th.
Yes.
was off. But that didn't make sense to me either because the 10th would have been after the meeting anyways.
It had to do with the submission date and the plats.
with the 30 days
Yeah.
for the plots.
And then the December, because you guys don't have a second November council too.
Yeah.
There was a couple of different reasons. It's coming back to me. Okay. Any staff updates?
That was the
master
last
plan.
thing.
I'm sorry. Any master plan? No.
I think, yeah, we're gonna have a impact meeting on November 30th, and I think we're still trying to get it scheduled for you all, P&Z, to be involved with our comp plan update sometime in December. No? Not in December? Okay, all right.
So January.
For January.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll be sending y'all a calendar invite whenever we have that date available.
So they had joint workshop? Is that what that'll be?
I think it will just be you all, if I'm not mistaken.
What is an impact meeting? I don't think we've had one of those yet. Have we had?
It's for the
It's
Master
a
Plan
master
Advisory
plan.
Committee. So we're working on our comp plan.
Impact. MPAC.
Yeah, Master Plan Advisory Committee. That's actually the committee that Ms. Latimer is on.
We're both on it too.
Oh yeah, oh, awesome.
Yeah, I know what that. Okay, I thought I heard impact meeting, and I was like, I don't know what that is. Okay.
Yeah, that will be for our master plan that we're trying to get adopted, looking at maybe February or March of next year.
Sounds good. Future agenda items. Does anybody have any future agenda items you would like to add to our agenda? We have a couple of presentations still planned. We'll have the one with the city engineer next time. We already had the attorney. We'll have one with somebody that will give us updates on CIP projects. And then we've asked for water, wastewater, electric. We've asked for quite a few. And they won't all, I mean, we might be able to group some of them together, but just so that we have an idea of everything that's going on. Drainage would be a good one if it's not on the list. Because I thought that maybe Foos would come. I don't know. Okay.
So drainage
I'm sure Kelsey's
should go
working
along
on
with the Lomar, Clomar that I think
It
people
will
need
go
to
along with
understand.
that, yeah.
So,
But we could talk about drainage projects with the CIP.
Yeah. So, okay. So that was your items for future agendas. You're still
Did you
on
have
that?
any?
I do. I have. I'd like to have some of that 2010 annexation paperwork so I can understand when people are like handing this paper and saying, "You guys haven't done this. I don't know what this is." So, can I get that emailed to us, commissioners, so we all understand the annexation language? That is that an option?
That's part of the records that are missing, I think, right? The
What?
stuff that was handed out to property owners with the 2010 annexation.
I'm just looking for where would I find I don't want to have to ask for open records request. I think it's important that the commissioners know what this annexation guidelines and entailed and
what
what
they were promised.
Yeah, what people were promised, because it's come up several times now.
So are you just requesting like a background on the 2010 annexations? And like,
Yes.
It's just a general background of it.
Yes.
Paperwork that might have been handed out, like promising services. And
Is there?
anything
Well,
you could find.
just an example. Just an example. I mean, I don't even know if you can pull one specific address, but I mean, just an example of this is what was handed out in 2010 and promised and talked about, because I feel like I haven't seen that and I want to be able to make good decisions.
Yes. I think we can provide like a general like summary, and then whatever documentation we do.
Yeah,
have on
just
file.
something to all commissioners. Yeah. The escrow stuff, I guess we found that. That was my other note. And then I'm going to, I'm not sure it's a future agenda item, but before we close really quick, I do want to thank Ashley for taking the chair position. I understand that it entails a lot of extra work on top of regular work that she does with the city. But I am not comfortable with removing the invocation process because it is not violating the establishment clause that the Supreme Court ruled against in 2014. So I would like to have some either discussion or maybe we have something come up, because it's not, let me read my sloppy handwriting here quick. No one here is promoting or endorsing religion or denomination. It is a quiet time of guided contemplation, which is what I appreciate when Mr. Hines or some people usually remind us to make good decisions. It can have an inspirational message, but mostly it's about a process asking for help or support, and it is common in government. And again, I'm going to reiterate, it does not violate the 2014 Supreme Court ruling of the Establishment Clause. So I don't know, and I'm not trying to cause any issues, but I am not comfortable with removing that from our process.
if he doesn't have it ready, we'll put it as a future, an agenda item for you to discuss.
Yep, that would be great, because as I was trying to research really quickly, I don't see anything past 2014 that says we can't have that. The Supreme Court ruled that it was not violating anything. So I just want to have that as an option, not because it has anything to do with prayer, Christianity, or God, but because to me it's an inspirational message of quiet time and guided contemplation. And sometimes it reminds me when someone comes up and says, let us make good decisions for all of whatever. And I do yoga and meditation, and to me, positive affirmations and that kind of stuff is important. So to me, if we make it a rule, we take out the word God, then I don't have a problem with that. But I just don't want to see that little blip be removed completely. So
I'm not for it being removed either, so I would rather it stay. It's almost like saying one person gets to, I don't know who the commissioner was, and I don't need to know. Yeah, I don't need to know, but it's almost like saying one person has the option to do something over everybody else. And
Please,
we'll
thank you.
just we'll get an attorney opinion, and if he can't get it to us, then we'll do it as a discussion item, and then if there's no reason it can't be on there, then as a group you can decide if you want to leave it on there, if you want to put it on as a invocation / moment of silence like many of the other committees do. Sometimes they do an invocation, sometimes they do a moment of silence. So, but first I'll get an attorney opinion on it, and I'll get it sent out to you guys, okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And then one last thing, let's not forget the email I sent forward to everybody about the training requests. And if we could work up a schedule, and I think that we need each of those areas of training that I'd requested in the email, they're very, very important, very, very pertinent. We all need to be experts in this field. We're all not paid to know everything that they know, but we need to know where to look, and just as importantly, how to look, so that we do have our answers, and it's a more professional, educated discussion amongst all of us, because we're all here for our citizens. We're not here to get gray hair. Been there, did that. So we're just here to do the right things, and so please help us get trained. Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is adjournment. I will take a motion for adjournment.
I motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. Past my bedtime.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry I didn't make it by.